as well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to the 2026 Motorsport UK Esports Championship, none other than the Rookie Sportscar Cup, as powered by the sim racing collective TSRC and supported by the official prize partners for this 2026 season. That's none other than Phil and also Simagic. That's right ladies and gentlemen, we are back for our third rendition for the highly popular Rookie series, where it's all about newcomers taking on a whole new test their abilities in the sim racing world. Indeed, it's a league designed for those with an iRating of 1,850 or less and with relatively limited experience, whether it be on the simulator in real life. And for our drivers, it's a great opportunity to take a major step in their virtual racing career. Indeed, this could be one of the very first leagues, if not the first league they've ever participated in. And add it all together, it's an absolutely brilliant and raw experience for our drivers to go for victory. Last season, of course, we had a brilliant 2025 championship, which saw Ashley Toft and Matt Jordan take the respective titles in the BMW M2 CSR and the Mazda MX-5 Cup classes. But for this season, well, our rookies will be racing one class of car. It'll be the Mazda MX-5. However, new for this season, whilst we may have only got one car class in the rookies, we've got an all-new support series. Supporting the 2026 Motorsport UK Esports Rookie Sportscar Cup is the Sim Racing Collective Hot Hatch Championship for this year. Indeed, the Sim Racing Collective working with Motorsport UK, it's a brilliant collaboration. And well, the great news is, of course, ladies and gentlemen, with that support race, we're going to be kicking off with an absolute close front-engine, front-wheel drive Bonanza. That is, of course, delivered by Renault Clio Cup cars. And that's what we're here for today. To start off with, of course, with the Clio Cups and then make our way to the Rookie Sports Car machinery. But this broadcast being brought to you live via free media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, on YouTube, you can be tuned in via the Motorsport UK official YouTube channel, that being the esports channel, of course, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via there. Alternatively, if you're tuning in via Twitch, you're on twitch.tv/Motorsport UK Esports, and tuning in via the official Motorsport UK Esports Twitch channel. Or thirdly, you can be tuning in via the Sim Racing Collective YouTube channel as well, and welcome to you all regardless of what platform you're tuning in via. This broadcast being brought to you by Narvin Porsche Productions, and in the comments booth you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, Uninitiated, and I'll be your commentator throughout the entirety of the season. But as we make our way in to an all-new season, well, without further ado, let's show you our broadcast schedule, which is going to be the schedule we adhere to for the purposes of each and every round of racing. We've got 5 rounds, and we'll see them open up with a qualifying session for the Hot Hatch Trophy, and that'll be getting underway. In fact, it's already halfway underway, and we'll very quickly come back to that because our race is coming up, and that'll be the 30-minute race for our Hot Hatches at 7:10, all these times UK time. Then we'll have a break, the best part of 10 minutes, maybe a bit shorter, maybe a bit longer, and then we'll return to introduce what will be the Rookie Sportscar Cup, with their qualifying session due to get underway at 8 o'clock this evening, after which we've got 2 races for our Rookie Sportscar drivers, the first of which will be at 8:15, and after that 20-minute race, we'll have another 20-minute race for a top 8 reversed grid, and that'll be at 20 to 9, and after that we'll be catching some interviews before we do conclude each and every broadcast. So an absolutely bumper-packed schedule. In terms of our calendar for this season, well, as we can see, we've got an absolutely brilliant calendar as well, and all these circuits free and available as part of the base subscription on iRacing. It's the Snetterton circuit in the United Kingdom that opens up our campaign, the 300 layout. Then we make our way from the United Kingdom to Norway for Rudskogen Motorcenter in round number 2. Round number 3, it'll be Osserslebens Grand Prix circuit in Germany before we make our way to Australia and revive the now non-existent Orient Park Raceway from all those many years ago in round number 4, and we'll bring the curtains down the Alton Park Circuit International in the northwest of England. And indeed, what a calendar. We've got all these races on a weekly basis, and at the end of them we will be crowning our champions provisionally, subject to any assured inquiries. But as our host circuit, here is of course the Snetterton circuit, located near the village of Snetterton in the county of Norfolk in the United Kingdom, specifically the country of England. The best part of 3 miles in length, that's why it's got the 300 label to its name, 2.98 miles to be precise, or 4.8 kilometres depending on your preference units. But regardless, a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator on which we're hosting this series, but also the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. 13 corners at the core, many of these household names to locals, indeed around the world, and many of them named after infamous British drivers or individuals in British motorsport, including none other, of course, Montreal Corner, now known as Wilson Hairpin, in honour of Wilson, who sadly passed away in the 2010s in that rather nasty incident. We also do have, of course, Williams there at turn number 8, named after Frank Williams. We also do have the Bentley Straight, named after the British manufacturer, and we've got Brundle into Nelson there, turns 9 and 10. But a highly technical circuit for our drivers to get to grips with, indeed a very tricky one to get the season underway. But as we do get things underway, well, we start with our hot hatches and talk a little bit about their format, of course. Qualifying, they have 8 minutes and 3 laps in which to try and take pole position. The race itself is 30 minutes in duration. Setup-wise, it's fixed. Everyone's running the same setup on their car, so it comes down to the driver. And damage-wise, well, we'll see there's a fast repair available should they need it. The starts are standing, and the instant count is 17 instant points before they do get a drive-through penalty. And then at every 10, we'll see another drive-through penalty added to the mix. But let's make our way back to circuit side, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, well, who exactly is leading the way in qualifying right now? Well, the answer to that question is, by the looks of things, none other than Kieran Sharp, as a lot of our drivers are cooling on down. We've got plenty of regular faces from the Sim Racing Collective community and some new ones as well, as we do see Adrian Borowski making his way on around there. He's not going to get this lap together because qualifying will be called when the clock says 8 minutes is up, as you can see in the top left corner of your screen, after which we will be making our way to the grid for their race. But it looks so Kieran Sharp, I was catching up within the paddock in the build up to this, and he hasn't raced the Renault Clio in the best part of a year. Well, a year's gap has not diluted his experience. But that is qualifying complete, and with qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way to the grid for our first race of this 2026 Championship campaign. And well, for our support series, Hot Hatch Trophy, brought to you by the Sim Racing Collective, this is how they'll all line up for the first of their 5 races this season. As we can see, taking pole position, it is going to be Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. He will be joined on the front row of the grid by Thomas Hill. Now, Thomas Hill very eager to try and make his way to the very front. A very fast driver out there, and the gap between the two of them in the end, not even a 10th. Then Andrew Pike will be starting in 3rd place of Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of his teammate of Craig Twardock. Although we should point out there are no teams in the championship as such. Indeed, they can be represented on the same team, but this is a drivers' championship, and that alone. We'll then see, starting on the 3rd row of the grid, it is going to be the combination pair there of Matt Cheverton and Tom Davidson, and well, the privateer they're looking to do battle with the Sim Racing Esports driver. Then we do see what is none other than Patrick Gallick starting in 7th place, ahead of Leo Aina, I should say, get that surname correct there. We're always going to get caught out by a couple of surnames every so often, no doubt about it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll do our best to get them right. And then we'll see Byron Forrest II, the American driver new to the Sim Racing Collective racing community after what's their GR86 Cup season, when he makes way back again for MRT and Maloya Racing. And then we do see Jamestown Radford completing that top 10. Behind him, it'll be Philip Moroz starting in 11th place, the Russian driver, joined on that 6th row of the grid by Harley Butcher. And then we do see outside of And that top 12, it will be Janos Wenzel starting 13th, and he will be in the company there of none other than what will be Julian Rehrberger. We then do see a little bit behind them as we continue our way down the order, Laney Hansen ahead of Artem Fomin, and then we do see Conrad Kula ahead of Jay Walsh, with Tony Preston starting in 19th place. In fact, we do have Adrian Borowski there, and in none other than what is there in Rankin joining the grid. It does look as though they've made the way in at last moment's notice, and as we do take a look at the updated grid there, so it has been a bit of a technical technical hitch, but they've made the way onto the grid as well, and they're almost set, and well, very happy to see them all out there and ready to go. But with our race almost ready to go here, well, in terms of where they line up, Adrian Borowski starts in 6th place, in fact, and we will see Ian Rankin starting in 11th. But this grid absolutely packed, they're all absolutely ready to go, and we're just waiting on 2 drivers to take their spots on the grid and go green flag racing. Not too far away, no doubt about it, and everyone right now very excited and very eager to go green flag, but of course it is a question of waiting very patiently before we do get that green flag racing underway, and we are just waiting for the last couple of drivers to take their spots on the grid. But when they do, you can be certain of one thing: it is going to be absolutely fast, it's going to be furious, and we're going to expect plenty of battling action between all these drivers. Last drivers take the spots on the grid, and as they do, our overlay will briefly refresh itself there, but don't panic, that's on our side, not on yours. And well, as we can see there, Kieran Sharp, the pole sitter for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, all ready to go. And well, there'll be no formation up. It is purely a standing start for all these drivers, and therefore once they do get away, it is really going to be a barrel roll down towards turn number 1. And looking on board from Kieran Sharp, you can't see turn 1 from here. All you can see is a rise from what's the last corner of the circuit all the way to that first corner into Riches. Will it be Riches or rags for Kieran Sharp and his rivals? Let's find out. So it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 red lights. And it's lights out, away we go for the 2026 campaign of the Sim Racing Collective Hot Hatch Trophy here on iRacing. And as Kieran Sharp leads the field in towards turn 1, a brilliant start from him. But meanwhile, we can see Thomas Hill close behind him there, and Hill definitely going the attack early on. A little bit further back behind, we see Adrian Borowski there making some great progress early on. And well, side by side here between Tom Davidson and Liu Aina as they roll the way down to that braking zone for turn number 2. This will be for the first time of asking as they come in. Big lock up of the brakes there for one of the drivers. Oh, there's elbows out, and Tom Davidson there going deep. Several drivers going very deep there, but the 42 driver falling off the road alongside Patrick Gallick. And well, oh, and somebody else being collected there. That was Harley Butcher being collected, but the field carries on, and as they do, well, Kieran Sharp's going to have a golden opportunity to start a breakaway as they now make the way in towards Agostini. But as we look from the leaders back further down the field, side by side there between Preston and Artem Fomin as they get in towards that braking zone, and we'll 2 wide they go. Patrick Gallick right behind as well, and we're very close together, but Harley Butcher's lost out massively, and he's right at the back of the field. He's outside the camera shot. Big lock up there from Tom Davidson, and well, those lockups proving very punishing. Remember, these Clio Cup cars, they don't have ABS as such. The ABS is the driver. You've got to essentially be the ABS. You've got to modulate those brakes as best as you possibly can. And the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver here right now doing battle side by side with another and Philip Moroz. And we do see there Julian Rehrberger ahead of Lenny Hansen. These two side by side right now. You'd think they'd be on a formation app, but not quite. Indeed, they're continuing to fight. But meanwhile, Andrew Pyatt starting to lose some time versus Thomas Hill as they make the way down the Bentley Straight. There we see Adrian Borowski making his way up towards the Brundwinter Nelson complex. But right now, our leaders are gradually coming back together. And what a race it's been already. Plenty of excitement. Remember, this is just the first of many a lap. No pit stops expected. They'll have enough fuel to get to the end of the race unscathed when it comes to fuel capacity. It's all about just surviving with the tyres, and tyre management will be key in these front engine front wheel drive machines as Matt Sheraton, the Aztec Racing privateer, goes and move there. Also working as part of a real life motorsport team as well, working as part of the Porsche Boxster Cup in the United Kingdom, and the 390 driver making his way on around through turn number 12 in towards 13 right now, through Coram into what will be that left-hander, and we'll complete that very nicely there as Sheraton right now holds on to that 5th place. So after one lap of racing, it is going to be Kieran Sharp who leads the way ahead of Thomas Hill, followed by Andrew Pyatt and Adrian Borowski. Sheraton sits in 5th. Then we do have Craig Tardock ahead of Ian Rankin, Byron Forrest the 2nd, Lee Aina. And then we do have James Stone Radford completing that top 10. And Stone Radford does have some friends to play with, but not quite the same as what is here, none other than the movement of Leo Aina, who are looking for the move there on the back of Byron Forrest II. And, well, the American driver here feeling a lot of pressure. Aina goes defensive here to carry off Stone Radford. And onto the brakes he goes, and he gets that done, does Leo. Lovely move. A little bit of wheel spin there coming out of the corner, but he just about holds it together. Meanwhile, oh, goodness me, that's got a little bit up close and personal between some drivers. And I do believe there that might be Conrad Kula being elbowed out as he brings himself back on. We're going to have to get a replay of that shortly because that's not the way he's wanted it to go whatsoever. But sometimes that's the way it does go between our drivers. And, well, plenty of elbows out racing as they make the way in towards Agostini for the second time of asking. And that's before you consider what's going on at the front here as we look out the rear view window of number 23 of Kieran Sharp in control of this race right now as he makes his way around. As he does so, well, looking absolutely in control at this time, but plenty of fighting to be expected as Thomas Hill right now, I think, just getting himself into this race. And that's the great thing about Thomas Hill as well, is the fact I think he's playing the patience game, and all these drivers are definitely right now building themselves up to a degree, but there is more fighting to come with certainty. Getting ready for another braking zone in due course here. Further back, Lenny Hansen, side by side with Janos Wenzel. These two know each other. They've known each other for years in terms of their sim racing careers. And keep in mind, of course, as we do go free wide, we'll hold the phone on that fault, ladies and gentlemen, as that's going to be Lenny Hansen backing off as Patrick Gallick there, going for the move. And as they make the way on down in towards the left-hand, oh, this is definitely going to be a bit of a hairy and scary moment, as we like to call it, as they make the way free wide into Brundle. And Patrick Gallick makes the move. What about Lenny Hansen? Oh, there's a touch there with Conrad Kula, and that's going to turn Hansen sideways, loses from, oh, goodness me, and that is going to be straight into the side of the car there. That's Tom Davidson, and well, the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver making haste, sadly, and Lenny Hansen has had to tow to the pit lane as a result of that one. There's no safety cards for that, but it's all gone a bit wrong, and for Lenny Hansen, definitely not the man he wanted. It was free into one corner, and well, free wide into Brundle doesn't normally work, but they made it work almost, as meanwhile our leaders continue to stay relatively calm and going on to another lap. But as Kieran Sharp makes swing around there in the Renault livery machine, indeed going for a bit of a default livery here today. Well, here comes the first potential move from Thomas Hill that we've seen in this race. Looking around the outside, missed out on that pole position by a slender margin, but the 196 driver taking a little bit of a look around the outside. There's contact between himself and Kieran Sharp, and Sharp is turned around, but he's not made his way to the tie bar. He will get that car back on the road, but definitely that's going to be a bit of frustration. I think a few drivers here definitely a little bit rusty with these Clios, and well, definitely the fighting getting a bit close. But of course, we don't have live stewarding for these races, whether it's in the Hot Hatch Trophy, or alternatively the Rookie Sportscar Cup. But what we will have is post-round stewarding, and well, we've got some brilliant stewards who are on the team for this season, and they will be watching the racing very closely when it comes to all those incident reports. And indeed, the camera angles that we get, they've got every camera angle known to the sun. So therefore, keep your eyes out for that. We can definitely expect a good number of what is our drivers there. If they are found guilty, they will be subject to penalty points, and very quickly they'll be racking up what will be penalties going into future rounds, including the likes of qualifying bans or even race bans potentially if they've been that naughty. But let's not think about the bad, let's think about the good. And right now we're seeing plenty of good racing here as we ride on board with Patrick Gallick, who's already made his way back up to 12 after what was a bit of an expedition of an open lap, let's say, and will fell all the way to the bottom end of the top 20, but right now trying to make his way back upwards. Out of our 21 starters, all of them are back out there, although Lenny Hansen has just left the pit lane, so he is effectively half a lap down at this point. The Snetterton circuit, over 2 minutes a lap, so as a result, he's going to have an opportunity to gradually catch back up, albeit he'll need some battles to occur in front of him and some drives to be elbowed off the road if he wants to really gain those places. But still, always good to get the practice in, as there's a mistake, and that's going to be Artem Forming going wide there as he goes to rejoin, and as he does so, we'll look up the inside from none other than Conrad Kulu, who tries to make his way back up the order. Of course, Conrad had a bit of a good start, but meanwhile, Tony Preston's had a bit of a moment, I do believe, coming in towards Nelson, and well, the Dogs driver there has definitely had things go a little bit wrong, but he gets things back on the right-hand side. But looking from here, back up to Andrew Pike as he makes his way down towards turn of one, and Borowski versus Thomas Hill behind. And right now, Hill may have been involved in that contact earlier on, but it's not dissuaded him. Meanwhile, Matthew Sheraton now fending off Craig Twardock for the Sim Racing Collective Esports and the Aztec Racing driver. Well, these two are no strangers to each other. They are both two drivers who, when they get their teeth into a battle, they absolutely refuse to budge. And therefore, this is the equivalent of the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. Who is going to be the one who wins in this one? We will see, as here they come in towards Palmer Bend, named after, of course, the owner of MSV, none other than Jonathan Palmer. And as they make the way through the left-hander, well, there we do see Craig Twardock losing out a little bit. Sheraton now coming back, and Sheraton in the end does lose out right at the end of the run towards Agostini, not quite able to get the power down the way he wanted. And here comes Ian Rankin, the man who starts in 11th place on the grid, and well, the 248 driver from Scotland going on the attack. But behind, Leo Einer, and Einer right now watching eagerly here, seeing if he can get involved in the fight a bit later on. But looking back to Harley Butcher, definitely not the way he weighed the day to start, the way it went backwards rather than forwards. But your number, what is 18 driver there, making progress away from 18th place, tucks up the inside of Tony Preston, doesn't get the best of exits however, and suddenly Julian Rehrberger looks for a move in turn. The German driver here looking up the inside, that's not going to work out, and well, in the end he does have to settle down, as meanwhile Artem Fomin has had a bit of an excursion at Williams, and well, he rejoins in 16th place. In fact, that's from Oggies into Williams, let's get that corrected. But more fighting going on as we look back to the front of the field. Thomas Hill at the inside there of Adrian Borowski to try and take second place back, does so. Andrew Pike, meanwhile, now knowing he's got one of the faster drivers right behind him. That's not to be rude about Adrian Borowski, it's just that Thomas Hill has proven to be a bit of a quicker driver over the distance thus far, and definitely is looking quite threatening. But as they roll the way through the corners, well, these drivers absolutely throwing everything at this right now. And, well, Thomas Hill is going to have to go offensive-defensive here, which is he's going to have to go attacking after Andrew Pike to make sure he defends against Borowski by just outgrowing a gap. Now, Andrew Pike, of course, a massive touring car fan and a massive fan of anything to do with hot hatches. And that's why you notice that he is running the Nescafe Blend Renault Laguna livery from the Super Touring era of the BTCC from what was 1999 through to 2001, if my memory serves me correctly. And that livery being absolutely iconic. One of the final cars of the Super Touring era that did conclude, of course, in the year 2000 due to costs, amongst other factors. But meanwhile, spare no expense here. Jay Walsh looking up the inside of Kieran Sharp, or is it Kieran Sharp looking around the outside of him? I think it could be Kieran Sharp here making a move. Goes around the outside of Riches. And well, it's going to be a pricey move there. But in the end, well, Kieran Sharp's definitely written a check that he can cash in with the move. And Jay Walsh was not able to get back ahead of him there in towards none other than Wilson Hairpin. But as they make the way now, you can see Sharp right now really abusing that front left tyre. If he keeps doing that, it's going to feel a lot more wear towards the end of this race, and we'll know pit stops expected. And a pit stop to change tyres is going to cost you a lot of time, so therefore he'll be expected to essentially manage that tyre. Although the problem is, given the fact that a lot of the drivers in front of him right now, not quite on the pace that he set in qualifying, he'll want to clear them first and then consider tyre management. But of course, the more he uses that tyre, the less pace he's going to have as we get towards the halfway point of this race. So it is really a give-to-take situation at the moment, which is if he takes some places, he's got to give up some tyre life, but in turn, if he gives away those places to take some tyre life, well then suddenly he might not be able to progress as much as he would like to towards the end of this race. And Sharp, we're looking to get himself back into the top 10. Remember, there's only one race in the hot hatches for this season per round, so therefore it does mean we are not expecting any reverse grids as such. It's 30 minutes. You've got to get the job done within the 30 minutes. You don't get any extra time. Well, right now it's time to come back into the fight for fourth place. Twaddock, Cheverton and Rankin together. Ian Rankin still on the back of this group as he rolls away through the corners. And well, your 248 driver here, he gets to make a bit of impression, but it's not quite easy at the moment. And well, I think just is nursing the game at the moment and thinking, what can he do? Let's do say hello to a few of you there in the YouTube chat. We do say hello in the Where's the Motorsport UK YouTube chat to Patrick Gallick, who is glad to be a driver for once and not also a broadcaster for Clio Cup Racing. And he is racing, of course, currently running in none other than 12th place, not on camera at this moment. We also do say hello to Carbis there, who was asking the times of the races. Also, we do say hello there to Kuvlyer, and also there to Max Andrews and Hajo Hoare and George Dale, who's cheering on Thomas Hill. We can see a number of you cheering on different drivers, which is absolutely great to see. But meanwhile, speaking of changes, Conrad Kula and Kieran Sharp, well, that's going to be Sharp making another move there as they make the way out of the final corner this time around. Well, 11 minutes of this race complete, still more to come as they barrel the way along. As the drivers do so, and rolling the way on through the corners. Well, we can see now it's definitely one of those situations whereby Kieran Sharp and Conrad Kuller, both very experienced sim racers to be fair, and will show an experience in spades. But meanwhile, as we do see Philip Moroz, oh, why on earth is Janos Wenzel going? That's not turn two. And well, I wonder if he has been elbowed out there a little bit or whether he's completely missed his braking zone because he's rejoined. And to be fair to Wenzel, something tells me right now that might have been very late on the brakes there, and also perhaps a little bit of contact. So the car comes back around. Philip Moroz, meanwhile, just had a bit of a rallycross moment going out of Palmer from what I'm hearing in my ear. And well, as the priority makes its way back onto the road, Patrick Gallick is on the attack, looking for that 10th place off of him. Some big points to be gained. But as they roll the way through, and Moroz goes very deep there, and well, I think right now there might be a bit of damage on that 812. No, don't quote me on that, ladies and gentlemen. We need some more context before we're able to give you an answer to that. But right now, Moreau is definitely not looking to be as happy in the car as he was earlier on. But we have 12 minutes of this race complete. We've still got plenty to go. Let's take a look back at some instants from earlier on. And let's go all the way back to the start of the race for some replays. And this was how it all began as the drivers got away. And in the end, after it was 5 red lights, well, it was Kieran Sharp who had an absolutely brilliant start to this race. And Andrew Pike wasn't too far behind. But as all the field made the way down towards turn 1, saw plenty of fighting as they rolled the way in towards the opening corner. And indeed, we got to see fights throughout the field. But Kieran Sharp was the one who took the ball safely through Rich's Bend. And by the time they got to the hairpin, that's when the elbows really started to come out. And Patrick Gallick was one of the early victims of incidents. He was, of course, running in 6th place when into the braking zone, but a bit too hot there from Tom Davidson. And as he came barreling into the corner, well, Patrick Gallick being collected there by Davidson, and the two rejoined. A little bit of a tussle there, and in fact, the 18 being collected, and that was Harley Butcher being turned on around as they went into a space that was only fit for 2, but they tried to make 3. This is what it looked like from on board Patrick Gallick's car. He's going to make his way down towards the corner here. And as he makes his way into that braking zone, he's suddenly going to find himself going a little bit deeper into the corner he anticipated. There's the big shunt. And unfortunately, that was that contact there with Tom Davidson, who came in razor hot, and this is what it looked like on board from Davidson's car. And as Davidson made his way on down here, you're going to see he's battling side by side at this time with Leo Ayna, I should say, and onto the brakes he went. And well, unfortunately, the Briton there completely outbraking himself. But it wasn't just about outbraking into turn number 1. Of course, we did have some other moments a little bit later on, including what was a bit of an expedition, as we saw the tail end there of the moment, which did send Harley Butcher out. But this was Julian Rehrberger, and the German driver making his way in towards turns 9 and 10, and unfortunately ended up going spinning into the grass. I think clipping the rear bumper of a rival, and unfortunately unsettling his car. We also did have Conrad Kula dropping down the order as he made his way into the hairpin, and this was on lap number 2. Came in a bit too hot there and impacted the 313, and that was Jan Svenzel being collected with him, and Conrad Kula definitely picking up the pieces as a result of that one. We also did have a bit of a moment for Artem Fomin and Lenny Hansen, and this was the free wide as they made the way in towards the corner behind. And Artem Fomin, in the end, well, he just got it a bit wrong of his own volition, so he had a bit of a moment of his own. Meanwhile, Lenny Hansen found himself in that free wide and being collected, as we do take a look at another camera angle of that. And this was, of course, the incredible free wide moment, and Lenny Hansen on the inside to outside here, and a small touch with the 313 sent him sideways. Unfortunately, the car rolled, lost the front bumper, and then Tom Davidson collected his car. And for Tom Davidson, he's definitely picked up a few cars in this one. But we also did have a bit of a big moment on lap number 6 for Janos Svenzel. And this was Svenzel making his way down towards turn number 2. And as he did so here, this time on the braking, just outbroke himself, was not touched there by the 812 of Moroz. Indeed, we weren't 100% certain if there was contact or not, and Svenzel taking a long trip. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we go back to your live racing. And as we do, we've seen some of the big moments, or the big crunch moments from the opening few laps. And Philippe Moroz there being passed by Janos Svenzel. And Svenzel up the inside. That's going to be for 13th place. But whilst there's fighting further down the field, now we're coming to the second half of the race. And Andrew Pike still leading at the front of the field. And he's going to try and use blend 37 as his inspiration here. And that's the special blend of Nescafe. Not the special blend of fuel he's using. All these cars have been checked prior to the racing to make sure they're all equal. And indeed, as Andrew Pike makes one around, Thomas Hill right there behind him. But the 196 driver right now staying nice and close. It's Adrian Borowski. The third place run in this one is just going to wait, watch, and, well, wait for an opportunity. I was going to say wait, watch, and listen, but to be fair, I don't think he's going to hear more than the sound of his own car's engine and what the team are telling him on the radio. But right now, Adrian Borowski wasn't quite on the pace of Thomas Hill early on in this race, but right now he's definitely getting a bit quicker. So he might have just been saving up the car where his two rivals in front have not. Craig Twardot, meanwhile, still with Matt Cheverton for close company, and right now these two joined at the bumpers almost as they make the way around. So expect there's going to be plenty of fighting between them, as meanwhile we see Ian Rankin 1.3 seconds behind, just falling off of the pair a little bit. So what was a trio is now becoming a duo. But as that gap opens up between them, Leo Ayna, meanwhile, chasing after Ian Rankin and not quite on the pace of him, and is actually losing some pace to Byron Forrest, the second behind. And right now, the American driver from MRT Malloy Racing is definitely getting closer and closer in his Mobile 1 machine as he makes his way through the right-hander Williams. But behind Patrick Gallick, and well, the man who's very much a big fan of racing Clio Cup cars, he has got Kieran Sharp behind him right now. What do you do if you're these two? Because for Patrick, I think it feels as though he's earned himself the way back into 10th place. He'd like to be back up to 8th, which is where he started. Kieran Sharp, of course, would like to be back at the front lead in the race, given that's where he qualified. So these two right now, as they're hidden behind the gantry bridge and coming in towards turns 9 and 10 this time on the brakes. No change. So Kieran Sharp here playing it safe, does not want to make a move until he absolutely has to, and he'll probably try and do it in a place where he's not going to cost himself nor his rival too much time here. They'll want to try and work together and be smart about the racing. And being intelligent with your overtakes can be just as valuable as going for an all-in overtake, if you will. Particularly if your rival knows that you're both trying to achieve the same thing, which is move further up the order, why fight each other when you can fight each other later on, some would say. But coming down through turn number 13, you can see there Conrad Kula just behind by 1.5 seconds, and he completes the run to 12th place. But as we do see Gallick right now, experiencing Sharp being a lot closer this time. Kieran Sharp peels the outside here. Gallick will go defensive to the inside. So it does look as though Kieran Sharp gets in the upper hand, but Gallick is not going to back out of this one. He wants it just as much. This will be the fight for 10th place, and Kieran Sharp's going to try and go around the outside. Has he got the tyre grip to do it? He has there, and well, up into 10th place, Kieran Sharp goes on his recovery journey. Smooth move there. Next journey is going to be to James Stone Radford. It's only 4 seconds he's got to close down. Again, the fact he has been lapping a 1.5 seconds a lap quicker than James Stone Radford. Theory would be that he will be there with about 4 minutes to go, and if he does so, well, Byron Forrest the second is also a prospect just up the road from the pair of them. But back to the front we go. As we come back all the way to the front, well, we do see what is none other than Andrew Pike, with Thomas Hill and none other than Adrian Borowski behind. Andrew Pike still doing an absolutely brilliant job of managing this race. Thomas Hill there right behind, and Hill really now, I think this is going to become a bit of a crunch point here. I think for Hill, Borowski is now starting to reel his ace up his sleeve, which is he's turned down the pace at the start of the race to gain pace towards the end of the race. Now, understandably, Hill may be doing the same, and that's the thing we've got to consider. All these drivers, they have raced Clio Cups before. As far as I'm aware, nobody here is a rookie to the Clio Cup car, although if they are, they will have done a lot of practice for this. And as they make the way on through, well, it's definitely looking as though right now Borowski is getting closer and closer. Of course, we should put a little bit of wording at the bottom of this camera, ladies and gentlemen, saying that objects may appear closer than they seem, but 3 to 4 attempts between Clio Cup cars at Snetterton, it's nothing for these cars as they definitely continue to push each other on. And as they make the way around, well, I can definitely tell there's a lot of fans for Hill, and there's also quite a few fans out there for his other drivers. And I do see some questions there from Polaridium asking, do the cars have ABS? They do not. These cars do not have ABS, but they are a stepping stone into TCR racing, which you also see on iRacing as well. And I do believe the TCRs, if they do have ABS, it's a very light one, but I'm not 100% certain. But I know the Clio Cups, no ABS as such. And they do have a very light traction control system, although it's not, when everyone thinks of traction control, they typically think of GT3 racing machines or GT4. It's nowhere near as advanced as that. These machines, they are very raw. They're as raw as they come, essentially, whereby you are the driver who has to modulate everything. That's why you're seeing Andrew Pike leaning very heavily on that front left tyre going through Wilson again. Pike right now is feeling the pressure here, and when you see that little bit of smoke coming up from the car, that is normally a sign of a locked brake. Alternatively, that is a very heavy amount of leaning on a tyre. You know, I think it can be dust off the road, but we've had quite a gentle wind here today at Snetterton. Sunny conditions with some cloud, and we're not expecting any rain in sight. We're not expecting any rain for this season for any of the races. A, because it's the summer, and, well, also B, for the fact that for our rookies, as it is most likely their first league or their first formal league of racing, we want to keep nice and stable conditions for them to make sure that everybody has the best possible amount of fun and time out there. But our leaders continue to impress, but in the fight for fourth, Craig Twardock open up a bit more of a gap to Cheverton, now gap up into 9/10 territory, and Cheverton here just not quite able to close him down. Really throwing the car, and Cheverton does pick up a slowdown penalty for that, taking a lot of curb there, Oggy. Now, you can't see that. The driver has that represented, and we see it here in our commentary booth, whereby drivers, if they cut corners too much, they will pick up instant points, but they also will pick down a race time slowdown penalty, where essentially they will get called over the radio to say, you've cut the course, you've got to give a certain amount of time back. And the driver has 30 seconds typically, depend on the circuit and the car. Sometimes it's less than that, sometimes it's a bit more than that, but let's say on average they have 30 seconds, so 3-0 to give the time back. How they do that is lift and coast into a braking zone. If it is a big penalty, if you're looking at several seconds, they may have to lift and coast on the straight, which is something you never want to do because it costs you so much time. And, well, you've just seen Cheverton. He's just lost 1.4 seconds to Twardock as a result of having to lift and coast his way in towards turns 9 and 10. So that does not help whatsoever. But as Koofly there says earlier on, that Snetterton is only 12 minutes from his house. They're based in the east of England there. And to be fair, Koofly, I'm not allowed to have favourite circuits, but I can tell you one thing, I absolutely do love Snetterton. And, well, all circuits in the United Kingdom are absolutely fantastic. I'm not being paid by Motorsport UK to say that, I promise you. Indeed, I don't quite have a circuit which is out and out the very best in the United Kingdom, although if I was biased, it would be Brands Hatch, given it's my local. I can tell you one thing, Snetterton's my second local. If you exclude Lytton Hill, well, it is an absolutely brilliant circuit, Snetterton. A circuit which is all about mastering corner approach and also being confident under heavy braking. You've got two very heavy braking zones, two very different and dynamic braking zones as well, and that's why a lot of drivers really struggle at Snetterton if they're not used to racing at a highly technical circuit. It's why it's one of those circuits that's not liked, but once you get used to it, you really do like to sink your teeth into it. But we're going to sink our teeth into a full course meal here, because that's Artem Fomin versus Jay Walsh. They are fighting over 15th place, and right now Walsh feeling a bit of pressure here as he makes one through, but look who it's bringing to the party. Harley Butcher and Tom Davidson. They've definitely both been bruised, but not broken from instance earlier on. Oh, Jay Walsh there sliding with a bit of a lock up in towards turn number 2. And as he makes his way around, well, definitely keeping it all together. But as they roar the way onwards, well, we do see a few of you asking the questions there. Why does the leader have 57 iRating? Well, that's not their iRating, as that's a long way for Artem Fomin to go. That's none other than Palmer Plus there. That's if the corner was extended. And, well, as they make the way down into that braking zone, well, we do see Harley Butcher right now is going to try and go up the inside into Agostini. And, well, in the end, Artem Fomin making another mistake, going very wide at understeering. And understeer really will creep in when those tyres start start to wear down. Front engine, front wheel drive. The front tyres do all the work. And right now, Harley Butcher into the lead of this group. Jay Walsh being passed there by Butcher. Butcher having a monster run, but here comes Walsh backing him up the inside. And right now, too wide they go. A bit of a lock up there for both drivers. And here comes Tom Davidson. He goes on the inside of one of them. He's going to try both here, going in towards Williams. And as he makes his way around, does Davidson get it? Walsh there trying to hold him at bay as much as possible. Walsh in the bright yellow machine. Meanwhile, Tom Davidson in the black and gold with red stripes on it. And meanwhile, you can see Artem Phone a bit further behind in the BWT racing machine, chased off the white machine of Harley Butcher. Well, right now, they all make their way down in towards Brundle into Nelson. This is going to be very tight between them all. Here they go onto the brakes. And in the end, it's going to be 2 by 2. It becomes 1 by 1 as Artem Phone in the end tries to hold around the outside of Butcher. Does he get it? The answer is it's not over yet. Still time. Oh, and they clip each other. And Artem Phone is turned around the front of Harley Butcher. And as he rolls his way back onto the road, well, thankfully, he's able to get it turned back on. But what a moment. And right now, we can't stop there because we've got to come back to the front of the field. And Andrew Pike, Thomas Hill and Adrian Broski closer together, the closest they've been. But we leave them for a brief moment because Byron Forrest trying to hold off Kieran Sharp. Sharp now up into 8th place. And suddenly with 6 minutes to go and a final lap after that, the fight hill kicks off as Byron Forrest looks up, he goes straight on, and James Stone Redford there in the end has to wait very patiently, the dog's privateer driver, and well, some would say he's absolutely barking mad about that. We'd definitely be whining about that one because he wanted the move on what was Kieran Sharp, and in the end he gets 1 place off Byron Forrest a second, but it's not the way he wanted to get it, which was essentially being blocked until he could turn in by letting Byron Forrest go straight on. Behind Conrad Cooley now going defensive versus Patrick Gallick. Gallick looking around the outside, and well, here onto the brakes they go, and what's it going to be between the Polish and the Austrian driver? Of course, Kula being from Poland, Gallick being from Austria, not too far away in terms of neighbours on the European continent, and as they head in towards what will be Hamilton Bend, named after, of course, Lewis Hamilton, the Formula 1 champion, the 7-time champion, equaling Michael Schumacher. Well, right now, Conrad Kula holding Gallick at bay just for a bit longer. And well, what a moment it was for several of our drivers there. Some huge moments. And let's take a quick look back at some of those. Our leaders make the way in towards Brundle into Nelson for what will be the 12th time of asking. And well, Artem Fomin did have a bit of a moment. This is what it was, ladies and gentlemen, as they made the way out of what was Brundle into Nelson, heading up towards the bomb hole. And Artem Fomin being turned around there. Now, of course, the camera angle would suggest that perhaps Harley Butcher turned Fomin, but what the stewards will be looking at is whether the two drivers were pointed towards each other. If so, it could be deemed a racing incident if both drivers there were pointing at each other. And well, that's why we never talk about who is at fault for an incident. That's what the stewards do, should it be reported by drivers. Now, as we come back to your live racing, definitely a bit of a hairy and a scary moment there. We've got plenty more to come. And for those wondering the time out, what the golden box with black text numbers are there, 57 for Andrew Pike, your leader, that is their door number on the car. It's not their I rating, we should point out. We don't show the I ratings for the purpose of this broadcast. Your time towel there has the position, your driver name. The little white dot, by the way, is what tyre compound they're on, whether they're on a dry or a wet compound. It'll always be white. It will be a dry compound this season. And then you see the door number, their nationality, and then the gap from what is the leader, essentially. So we do have the cumulative gap all the way to your leader of Andrew Pike in this instance, but more fighting going on. And a bit further behind, we have just had a change of position for Julian Rehrberger, the German driver, taking Harley Butcher's 16th place, and this is how he got it done. And we do take a look at the back, and Harley Butcher on a poor run there going through Bomb Hole Corner. There's a reason why it's called Bomb Hole, although I'm not going to have the time to go into that today. Sweeping around the outside of Coram. Well, I think Butcher there having to essentially recover the car. In fact, Butcher has headed into the pit lane for a fast repair, so he's got some damage. The only problem is he's actually sped into the pit lane in doing so. So Harley Butcher has actually picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So he's going to leave the pit lane to be told, you've got to do it again, Harley, because you've been a bit too quick in the pit lane. That's a bit unfortunate for him. That is going to relegate him towards the back of the field. I don't think it's going to put him behind Lenny Hansen, who's out there in 21st place. But understandably, it is definitely going to put him into 20th place and keep him there. But we're back with your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And well, right now, we've got this lap plus most likely one more to go. It could be closer to. We'll have to wait and see. 3 minutes to go. Pike, Hill and Borowski all together as they make the way down, and as they do, plenty of battling going on between these drivers, and we'll run the way in to left and to right, and it is looking as though right now Andrew Pike might have a bit more control over this. Adrian Borowski still trying to attack as we ride aboard, looking down over the front of the number 97 Privateer machine, and right now it's the battle of the two yellows as they make the way through Corra Bend. A long right hand, of course. This is where the front left tyre really takes the biggest abuse. Will they go hard on the brakes here And interestingly, all the energy gets transferred initially into the front left tyre, and it gets thrown to the front right tyre as they make the way off the brakes and into that corner. It's such an aggressive sequence, and if you don't get it right, Sonny, you're going to lose so much time. But 2 minutes 20 left on the clock. Is the white flag waving? The answer seems to be no. I think we've got 2 more laps to go, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to get a grand total of 15 laps here for your Hot Hatch Trophy season opener. And right now, Adrian Broski wipers on there, not for rain, but to get debris off of the front of the car. He wants to make sure he's got the cleanest possible windshield when he makes this move. But onto the brakes, and right now, no change between this leading trio. They have been like this for the best part of 18 minutes. And right now, this is going to come down to one driver's mistake. But one driver's mistake is another driver's opportunity, as they say. But of course, right now, Hill and Broski fighting for that second place, and Andrew Pike trying to run away. And looks like Thomas Hill here, not having the best of runs coming out of Palmer corner. Will Broski get a run on him in turning towards Agostini? He's probably thinking about it, but I think he's just a bit too far back there. He wants to go for lunge, but of course, he needs to check his pockets to see whether he's got a supply of first-class stamps. He's going to need them to go from that far back. Oh, even so, he might have to deliver it, express delivery. But we'll have to wait and see. But as they continue to stay as they are, we see Craig Trotter in 4th place. He's now put 4 seconds between him and none other than Matt Cheverton. And then we do have a further 3 seconds to Ian Rankin, who's delivered a solid drive from 11th to 6th. And right now, that's the first he goes. It's a good one. But meanwhile, move up the inside into Agostini. That's Conrad Kula coming back at Byron Forrest the second. And there's Patrick Gallick behind them. Kieran Sharp has cleared this group. He is running away in 8th place right now, and he is continuing to push himself onwards as much as humanly possible. So right now, Kieran Sharp definitely, I think, hoping that he's going to be getting close to Leo Einar before the end of this one. Although, to be fair, if not, there is going to simply be a settled 8th place for him. But right now on screen, Conrad Kula trying to keep Byron Forrest the second and Patrick Gallick behind for just a little bit longer. But as we can see, the trio there together. We're now on to the start for this straight they go. And this is where you get the tone. Now, these Clio Cup cars, they're not aerodynamic as such, but there is going to be one in front of the other punching a hole in the air. And Gallick right now is going to get the double draft here as he makes his way in towards Brundle into Nelson. But is he going to be close enough to look for the move? Not quite. It's a scary braking zone, this one. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you get the chance to experience it in real life, do it. You will realise just how quickly it throws the car into the corner, and you've got to be ready to settle the car down as best as possible. I think a few of our drivers are track day enthusiasts as well, even some of them they're club level racing drivers. But final lap comes about, 10 seconds left. We go on to a 15th and final lap here at Snetterton for round number 1 of the Sim Racing Collective Hot Hatch Trophy for 2026. And Pike right now keeping Thomas Hill at bay, and Adrian Broski there right behind. But the gap, 1.3 seconds to leader. So Hill and Broski seems to do the fight now for second place. Neither one of them here is going to be able to quite take that win unless Pike makes a complete ham sandwich of a corner. It's not impossible, to be fair, but Andrew Pike, he doesn't only make mistakes. Meanwhile, Kieran Sharp trying to pick up another driver here as he makes his way, looking down the outside, Leo Einar. Can he get it done in towards that braking zone? Einer's coming back here, and as they go onto the brakes, well, the LAM machine going all in. He's not going to give up, and in the end, Kieran Sharp has to respect the fact he's still there as Einar, and right now, Einar throwing everything at this. This brilliant racing between the two of them, but coming up in towards the left-hander of Palmer. Right now, Kieran Sharp's on the inside. That's where you need to be for these corners. What can Einar do? Can he go for the switchback? He does. He does look back to the inside. Sharp immediately cuts across there. Legal move, given the fact they weren't side by side, so Sharp can define his defensive line. As long as he doesn't weave, but Einar says there's a space. I'm going to go for it. And as he looks up the inside, Kieran Sharp didn't expect that. He went to turn in. Suddenly found he had a lime green machine on his inside. Now they come up towards Hamilton. 2 wide every step they go. But he's going to lose out there into left-hander. You don't do 2 wide for Hamilton on that inside. You'll lose so much momentum compared to driving the outside. And you lose track authority to Oggies. And right now, Einar having to wait a little bit longer. But as their fight brews to what will be a crescendo, well, meanwhile, we come back to your leaders. We do see a step aside there from Lenny Hansen. And Hansen is ahead of Harley Butcher, given Butcher's drive through. Well, as a result, it has put Hansen back into 20th place. Some points being consolidated there by both drivers, but not the points they wanted. But meanwhile, Thomas Hill and Adrian Borowski still 3 tenths apart. And, well, absolutely brilliant racing between them so far. We've still got more to go. And as they make the one out, well, Adrian Borowski right now, if he's going to make a move here, he's really run out of time. It would be a dive in towards what would be a Brundle. And I don't think that's going to work home through Murray's either. And as they make the way through the corner, well, right now, Borowski takes a lot of curb. But meanwhile, for Andrew Pike, it's not Kirby takes it today, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be the opening win of the season for Andrew Pike in the 57 for TSRC. It'll be Thomas Hill ahead of Adrian Borowski to complete the podium. Craig Todd will come home in 4th place ahead of Matthew Sheraton. And then it will be a little bit of wait, but we do get to Ian Rankin, who comes on home in 6th place as he makes his way on down. Then from the Scotsman, it'll be Kieran Sharp on a recovery drive to 7th ahead of Leo Einar. And then we will see a further 6 seconds behind. it will be James Stone Radford holding off Conrad Cooler to the line to complete the top 10, the pair of them. Byron Forrest the second, just holds off Patrick Gallick for 11th place. Best of the rest with Janos Svensson 13th. And well, they absolutely love that, those drivers. You can see Forrest absolutely loved it, no doubt about it. Philip Moroz takes on home 14th place in the end, ahead of Tom Davidson. And well, Tom Davidson in the end could not quite recover as far as he wanted to, but 10 out of 10 for trying from the TSRC British driver, and he threw everything at it. And then we will see 10 seconds behind. Give him a round of applause as well, because for Julian Rehrberger, he had to put some fights on with Artem Fomin and Tony Preston on the way. He takes home at 16th place, and then we will see a few more drivers come to the finish shortly, including Artem Fomin, the Bulgarian driver, who definitely had a few trips to the grass today. But of course, there's always mistakes to be made. And 8 seconds behind, it's a drag race for the final finishing position on the lead lap. Is it going to be Tony Preston or Jay Walsh? It's going to be Tony Preston, who takes 18th place by just a 10th for the line. And well, they come on through. But as our drivers cool them down, what a race, ladies and gents. So that was a brilliant opener here for the Sim Racing Collective Hot Hatch Trophy for 2026. Andrew Pike taking that win, and to be fair, it would have surprised him, given the fact he took the lead after what was the altercation between Hill and Sharp towards the start of the race. But at the same time as well, sometimes you've got to be in the right place at the right time to steal those places away. And Andrew Pike inside that car will be punching the air, albeit on his sim rig. But I can tell you, it absolutely means a lot to him, and I do believe his mum and dad will be watching as well. And that'll be Roger and Angie, if so. And well, he'll be absolutely pleased with that. Thomas Hill, he did a phenomenal job to take second place and had to defend very hard versus Adrian Borowski. And well, to be fair to the Polish driver, he did a great job going from 6th to 3rd early on and not missing an apex. Just a bit too much curb towards the end, but I think that might have been a little bit desperation creeping in, as it always does to any driver. No matter how much experience you have, you always push harder and harder until you can't give it anymore. But he did round off the podium there. Also some shout outs, of course, to Conrad Cooler, coming all the way from 19th to 10th place as he cools the car down. And well, absolutely a phenomenal drive from him, ahead of Byron Forrest II, who enjoyed plenty of fight. He didn't have the pace of those around him, but he had a clear-cut car that was much wider than everybody else's, because that's what he's done for some phenomenal defensive driving. But as our drivers head into the pits, let's take a look at those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, ladies and gentlemen. And here they are as they come up on your screen. So as we can see, after an absolutely exciting start to the season for round number 1 of the Sim Racing Collective Hot Hatch Trophy, brought to you as part of the support package for the 2026 Motorsport UK Esports Rookie Sportscar Cup, Andrew Pike taking the victory in the end for TSRC Esports by 1.5 seconds in the end, ahead of Thomas Hill, and the privateer there taking the runner-up spot, holding off Adrian Borowski. That's Craig Twardock in 4th place ahead of Matt Cheverton. Cheverton not having the pace to hold back Twardock, but in the end able to steer clear of Ian Rankin, and the Scotsman there making sure just to be 3 seconds clear of a recovering Kieran Sharp, who went from pole all the way down to the back end of the top 15, but made his way all the way back in 7th place. Leo Einer taking 8th there, ahead of James Stone Bradford, with Conrad Cooler completing your top 10. And outside your top 10, best the rest of the length, Byron Forrest II for MRT and Malaya Racing. And then we did see Patrick Gallick in 12th place there. He enjoyed the scraps in that one, even if he was turned a little bit early on. And we did see Janos Svensson in 13th place for TSRC, ahead of Philip Moroz, with Tom Davidson completing your top 15 for TSRC. Julian Rehrberger took 16th there in a very fighty race. Artem Fomin just finished behind him in a race that did see quite a bit of grass going to the radiator of the 138. And then we did see in 18th place Tony Preston ahead of Jay Walsh and Lenny Hansen. Lenny Hansen finished a lap down, and also we did see a lap down finish for none other than what was Harley Butcher. Unfortunately for Butcher, coming into the pits for repair work, and then he had to come in because he'd sped into the pit lane, and for Harley Butcher, 2 pit stops he didn't need, and that's the way it has gone. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, that completes the racing for the Hot Hatch Trophy, and they will be back in a week's time to kick off what will be round number 2 for us. But with that, an absolutely phenomenal race, no doubt about it. And well, coming up next, of course, will be none other than what will be the main event, as we do take a look back to our broadcast schedule. And here it is. And well, that was your Hot Hatch Trophy race. And now we're going to take a brief break of approximately 10 minutes. And then we will be back to introduce the 2026 Motorsport UK Esports, as supported by none other than Phil, and also Simagic as our official prize providers. And of course, powered by the Sim Racing Collective, it'll be the Rookie Sportscar Cup here at Snetterton. 10 minutes of qualifying, albeit we won't be covering all the qualifying. We'll be bringing up to speed of all you need to know for 2026. And then we will be going to the grid for race 1 or 2. And that will be the first of 2 20-minute races, after which we'll invert the top 8. And that'll be the second race. And that will complete their round number 1. And well, ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed the Clios, hold on to your hats, because we go from front engine front-wheel drive to front engine rear-wheel drive in the form of the Mazda MX-5 Cup car, and indeed seeing a whole group of rookies out there. They may not be as experienced as our Clio Cup drivers, but to be fair, there's nothing less exciting than seeing fresh faces take on one of the best cars in the world at one of the toughest circuits in the United Kingdom. So we'll be right back, and the rookies are on the way, ladies and gentlemen, in approximately 10 minutes' time. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've come back a little bit early because we don't want to keep you waiting too long. And well, coming up now, of course, is our main event for this season opening broadcast. It is time for us to kick off the 2026 Rookie Sportscar Cup, brought to you, of course, powered by the Sim Racing Collective by none other than Motorsport UK Esports, and this also being supported by official prize providers of none other than Phil and also Simagic. And to tell you a little bit about them, of course, Phil, a UK-based company established in 2017 by Dom Duhan, which is a pioneer of gloves specifically designed for sim racing, with the company's experience at the highest level of sim racing shaping every stitch. And as for Simagic, well, founded in 2018 on the basis of bringing the thrill of real racing to everyone's home, their in-house engineered product range includes a full racing ecosystem which delivers uncompromising performance. Indeed, uncompromising prize providers for this season. We're very grateful to our prize partners, and we're very grateful for all drivers who have made the way here. Now, of course, brand new drivers to League Racing. We do have a grand total of 22 of them out there, and they will all be absolutely itching to go. Now, most of them, if not all of them, are in the pit lane at the moment. They have, in fact, just completed their driver briefing, which does mean they're all ready to go. And well, there you can see our schedule on screen, albeit in slightly smaller text, whereby qualifying is about to get underway, or in a little bit of time. In fact, we might be just waiting a few more minutes, and then we will be making our way into the first of our races. That'll be 15 minutes of racing, after which we do have our slightly, well, in fact, it'll be 20 minutes of racing, followed up by another 20-minute race as well. So those timings there, not quite right on that screen there. But of course, this being the season opening broadcast, and we're rookies to bring this broadcast to you, ladies and gentlemen, so you have to forgive us when there are some small mistakes. But make no mistake, we've got an absolutely exciting one. And in terms of what our drivers are competing for, the Hot Hatch Trophy, our drivers competing there for bragging rights amongst Hot Hatch drivers at the Sim Racing Collective. But as for our rookies, they're competing for some very big prizes. And let's talk a little bit about them, given we've got some time. Now, firstly, these prizes are being provided by both Simagic and also Phil. And the winner will be taking home a Simagic Zeus Sport Wheel, including a Mag Dash, and on top of that as well, a pair of Phil gloves. And let's talk a little bit about that prize in particular, breaking it down into two parts. Firstly, in terms of the Simagic component of the prize, and well, that Zeus Series Sport wheel rim with Magic Dash, and well, Simagic just added the Zeus lineup to their catalogue. If you go to their website at simagic.com, you'll see all about it. It's all over the front page for a good reason, because it is the perfect choice for road racing or rally, offering a dual suede and stitched leather design. And our first placeholder will be taking home the Zeus Sport, coupled with Simagic's new Magic Dash, or Mag Dash as it's also known, a touchscreen that mounts to the wheel or wheel base. So therefore, you can have essentially your virtual dashboard from the iRacing simulator in the midst of your steering wheel, just like a real-life racing driver. And that's going to be looking absolutely brilliant, no doubt about it. And it's a touchscreen, which means that you can fiddle with it as you go racing, much like real drivers can as well. And it has full support for SimHub. It gives you key data whilst you race at a glance, like lap deltas, fuel, all without taking your eyes far from the road. And those Phil gloves that accompany the winning prize from Simagic will then buy a Phil and will absolutely smooth gloves. You may be sat there thinking, well, why would you want a set of gloves to go sim racing? Because you wouldn't wear gloves when you go driving, although some do, to be fair. Well, the idea is that some steering wheels can be very abrasive to the hands. I run with Sparko gloves myself, ladies and gentlemen, albeit I do a bit of real-life track work, so therefore I do use those. But if I wanted a set of sim racer gloves, in fact, you know what? After this season, I'm actually probably going to get a set, and I'm going to go to Phil, because the simple reason they are some of the smoothest gloves out there, and the thing is, they're crafted by a team that know exactly what it's like to compete at the highest level. And Dom Duhan, of course, being the founder of Team Redline, if my memory serves me correctly, and well, there's no better individual to essentially be at the foundation of some of the finest gloves that you can have for sim racing. Now, of course, our second place winner of the championship, they'll take a prize from Simagic. The details are to be confirmed, and they will receive a pair of Phil gloves. And the same for our third place winner as well. A prize from Simagic plus a pair of Phil gloves, but those prizes to be confirmed. But that winner's prize, of course, the much credited and much lusted after Simagic Zeus Sport will include the Magic Dash and a pair of Phil gloves. And also one driver this season at random from all drivers who compete in all 5 rounds will win themselves a pair of Phil gloves. If you're not the quickest out there, still make sure you turn up every 5 rounds. You give it your all, of course. All these rookies will do so, no doubt about it, as they go on their learning journey with regards to racing in such a competitive environment. And they may net themselves some gloves just by being on the grid and having a good time. And how about that? We couldn't ask for a better set of prizes for what will be our top 3, and also one of our lucky raffle winners who competes in all 5 rounds. Now, of course, we need to talk a little bit about rules with regards to the 2026 Rookie Sportscar Cup. And as we can see, well, the rules quite similar in a way to our hot hatches with some differences. Qualifying is 10 minutes in length for 3 laps. The race is 20 minutes in length, the first of which. And race number 2 is 20 minutes once again, but we reverse the top 8. Layman's terms, those of you not used to a reverse top 8 format, what that means is we take the results from race number 1. The winner from race 1 starts in 8th on the grid for race number 2. And we continue that inversion until we get to your 8th place finisher who starts on pole position for race 2. Those who finish 9th and downwards, you guessed it right, that's exactly what they'll start for race number 2 based on how they finished in race 1. This setup is fixed, there's no setups to this, it is purely a setup that drivers are given by the organisation team, and that's what you can do on iRacing. It's brilliant, you can have fixed setup racing so everyone has the same car, all the same fuel loads, all our drivers got to do is put pedal to the metal on the tarmac and also use the brakes every so often. Damage wise, well, there's one fast pair available. Show drivers need to make a trip to the pit lane, and the start will be standing, as would be typical of Mazda MX-5 Cup racing at a club and national level, although international it can be rolling starts, and the instant count will be 15 instant points for a drive-through penalty, and then at every 10 they will get one as well. So our drivers are allowed some forgiveness, for instance, but of course they can't get away with it for too long. But without further ado, let's make our way back to the circuit side, because we are in the midst of qualifying, and as our drivers make the way around, well, one of our leading drivers out there, none other than Ben Sieber, and well, that livery will be notable to you because he is one of the rookie drivers for DCW Racing. Now, Ben, I've seen him race in a couple of informal series in the past. I can tell you one thing, he's one of those drivers out there that you always love to see on a grid for the Sim Prees. He's one of the nicest guys out of the car and one of the firmest and fairest racers in the car. And how did he become a sim racer? Well, his good friend Paul Crawford, he'd like to give a shout out. Well, he recommended you get into sim racing, and that being the best part of just over a year ago, and well, he's only been doing it very much part-time. So when we talk about rookies here, do keep in mind that some of your drivers you see on this grid will have raced on other simulators, but they've been drawn to iRacing, including the likes of Kurt Fawcett and also Lee Barry Allen Robinson. They've been brought onto what is the iRacing simulator because the variety and offer the whole host of cars. Of course, iRacing, the biggest simulator out there. You can race Mazda MX-5 Cups, you can race NASCAR, you can race Super Formula cars, you name it, it's on this simulator. Well, there's a close approximation to it, and indeed, iRacing really is at the very top of the top when it comes to the market. And as Ben Sieber makes his way around here, wish him all the best of luck, as his encouragement from Paul Crawford, plus also his lifelong for Motorsport, have brought him to this grid, and he does have a little bit of real-life racing experience in the form of karting, and where it's going to feel like a massive go-kart, that Mazda MX-5, if he's going to use that as a comparison. But he's one of many drivers out there. We've got 22 drivers competing this season, as we do see Richie Holder make his way on down the back stretch. And as he does so, the number 49 driver there, looking absolutely in fine form, and indeed lovely livery on that car as well as he rolls his way into that braking zone, taking it nice and easy there as he makes his way through Brundle into Nelson. But we do also have some female drivers out there as well, including Kira Boylan, and well, Kira makes her way on around, and as she does so, we look forward to seeing what she's going to be able to do this season, racing as part of Motorsport Woman, the team, in the number 14 car, and has done some sim racing since she was 4 years old, but only taking it seriously in the last 2 or so years. And well, definitely an absolutely brilliant starting point then for our rookie to be part of this series, and races in karts all around the UK in Club 100. And well, in terms of circuits that Kira's looking forward to the most, interesting enough, looking forward to Alton Park, the season finale, and a lot of our drivers really not looking forward to Rudskogen, but there was one who, when I spoke to him in the build up to this, said they were looking forward to Rudskogen, and that was Lee Robinson as he makes his way around. His full name, of course, Lee Barry Allen Robinson, but we have concatenated it down to Lee Robinson. I'm sure Lee won't mind that. He's the only driver who responded to the driver survey form. In fact, now I say that, and look again, there was 4 drivers who responded this way and said they're all looking to Rudskogen on Norwegian circuit in a week's time. Rudskogen is one of those circuits, it's a Marmite circuit, and Lee Robinson definitely loving his taste of Marmite from Norway, and the same can be said for a couple of drivers out there, including none other than James Rogers and also Ian Holder and Ben Sieber. And well, there's also one driver out there who was very excited for the thought of racing at Snetterton, and that was none other than Max Moron. As we do have Max here today. There he is in his Mazda, the number 89 driver, and the Simit Esports Racing Team driver has joined the grid and got into sim racing as a result of his dad's passion for motorsport. And indeed, where a father goes, normally the son will follow if the hobby is infectious. And I'll tell you one thing, Max, you've definitely got a brilliant father to encourage you to get into sim racing through motorsport, and we absolutely love to see him out there. Now, as he makes his way on around, And you're just talking a little bit more about also our prize partners for this season and some of the other products available. Of course, we talked about the gloves from Phil, but also keep in mind that Simagic at the moment really offering a huge amount of hardware out there for that complete compendium of what is sim racing gear, including their GT Neo wheel, and it's their most popular wheel for a reason because it delivers that pro-level feel racers want. Full RGB lighting, thumb encoders, and silent shifters were double clutch, including the standard, all at a price that punches well above its rate. And to go with it, the P700 pedals, which definitely have looked to be a very impressive pedal set, built for serious adjustability without the serious price tag. And do keep in mind as well that Simagic at the moment are offering a entry-level bundle, and well, we didn't quite get the opportunity to ask any of our drivers before they went into this season, including Gabriel Dutra, who we see the Brazilian driver here, all the way from South America going racing, but of course sim racing an international sport, much like real-life motorsport, and as he makes his way onwards, I do wonder if any of our drivers out there are using the Simagic entry-level bundle, which, if today's race has got you wanting to try sim racing yourself, Simagic's entry-level bundle gets you everything you need for approximately $600 US or 455 Great British pounds if you're based in the United Kingdom. And that contains what is a 9Nm Evo Sport wheelbase, your choice of the GT Neo or Neo X round wheel, and the P700 dual pedal set. That's everything you need to go racing. And that's everything we need to see our drivers making the way around in this qualifying session right now as Harry Fletcher makes his way onwards. And we'll Fletcher back with us once again. And we're looking absolutely quick. Now, as he makes his way on around, of course, just a reminder there, the facts that we do have the door numbers in the time tell there. Those are not the I ratings. All the drivers had to meet a certain set of regulations to be classified as rookies. And while those being able to have an I rating that has never exceeded in their iRacing history of 1,850. Now, we should point out, remember, we are covering rookies here. So some of our drivers will not be as well versed as others out there. So do just keep that in mind when you see them racing. If they do make some big instances, if there are some calamitous moments on the braking or almost near spins such as Harry Fletcher, it's not because they don't know what they're doing. They're all relatively inexperienced in such a high competitive environment, and therefore all drivers will be kept in mind. Our stewards have definitely keep that in mind when it comes to the stewarding. Of course, they will be stewarded as per the Motorsport UK rules and regulations, but they will also be given a degree of leniency. The thought will be that sometimes a bit of inexperience can catch up to a driver. Jaden Niss, now that's a name I'm familiar with as he makes one around, the Canadian driver. Good to see him back out there once again. And well, I can tell you one thing, he's been in a few iRacing officials in recent history, and it's great to see him on this grid. But as he makes one around, all the drivers out there, of course, do have to have a Motorsport UK, what is membership, and it's not just the free one, it is the paid for one that gives you access to a huge number of benefits, including what is discounts with sim racing hardware providers to the tune of normally around 5 to 10%, and it's definitely worthwhile having. Also, providing our drivers access to this series as well as many other series that Motorsport UK hosts. Indeed, we've got a huge calendar of racing at Motorsport UK as the 2026 season goes on. But as this qualifying session comes to a close, the fastest driver out there at the moment, Harry Fletcher, no doubt about it, as we do see Antoine Gabrowski's very pink car there, and well, definitely a very colourful car. Big set of lips around the radiator grille, and while drivers have been told they can run any livery so long as they keep it civil and it's got no logos on it, that they have not got permission to run. And well, I think Anton Gabrowski's got permission to run that livery, as ladies and gentlemen, qualifying is complete. But the question you'll be asking is, how exactly do they all line up for their first race of the season? And well, here we go to the grid, and this is how all drivers will line up for round number 1, race 1 here at the Snetterton Racing Circuit in the 2026 Rookie Sportscar Cup, powered by the Sim Racing Collective and brought to you, of course, by Motorsport UK Esports. And as we can see, on pole position, Harry Fletcher taking that pole position in by 1.3 seconds for what was none other than his team, doing a phenomenal job there for Rotor Racing with VFR, and we're joined on the front row by none other than Thomas Stephen. The Scotsman there may have been 1.3 seconds behind, but he was only a 10th ahead of Ben Sieber for DCW Racing. He'll be joined on that second row of the grid by Connor Spruce, with row number 3 going to Jaden Innes and Mark Martin. Then we do have on row number 4, it'll be Gabriel Dutra, the Brazilian, in the company of the Scotsman of Craig McCracken. Then we do see from McCracken it'll be James Rogers and Kurt Fawcett completing the top 10. Kelvin Woodhead starts in 11th place ahead of Anton Gabrowski, and then outside of what is that top 10 and top 12 of it, we do see starting in 13th place on the 7th row, it'll be Richard Revens. Then from him it'll be Lee Robertson 14th ahead of Bevis Lau from Hong Kong, and he'll be joined on what will be that row by none other than Kira Boylan, who starts 6th 16th. 17th, it's going to be Richie Holder ahead of Max Moron. And then we do see completing your 20 drivers who've made the trip to Snetterton today. It's going to be Finley Secker and Matthew Shade. And Finley has a little bit of exposure to the Sim Racing Collective Series quite recently, but this will be his first big racing series. And I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, he'll be absolutely excited to be on this grid as the last of our cars are taking their positions up and down the grid. Some of our drivers are keeping us waiting. Others, meanwhile, are too eager to go race it to the point whereby they're already on the grid. They've been waiting. And for Harry Fletcher, well, looking inside the car, again, that's a very low-sitting car for a long run towards turn of 1. But based on his qualifying pace, you would imagine this should be a race whereby so long as he gets the launch off the line, he will be able to run away. But that's the theory. In reality, it could be very different. And all he's got to do is get it absolutely right and then try to run off into distance. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have had some confirmation as to those prizes. We'll come back to those shortly, because right now it's time to go racing. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. And it's lights out, away we go for our first race of the 2026 season. And Harry Fletcher gets a good start as the rest of the field now charges in behind him. But as we look to the blimp camera, gives us a brilliant view here of everyone making their way in towards Rich's Bend. Good start there from Connor Spruce going on the attack. We have had a non-start from our Scotsman Thomas Stephen and also for Matthew Shade. But meanwhile, Gabriel Duch there going on the attack. It's getting very firm between Ducha and McCracken as into the brains. And they go 3 wide on the break in there. And that's going to be reverse Moses manoeuvre 1 of the season being made there by James Rogers and Craig McCracken. But does Rogers get clear? The answer is not quite. He's still fighting Ducha in towards Palmer Bend. And as they go 2 wide through here right now, well, James Rogers will have enjoyed that moment. He's going to look back at the higher lap reel afterwards and go, I was part of a reverse Kraken. That's why the hardest move to make him racing, given the fact it requires you and a driver on the other side of a third driver in the middle to essentially both make an overtake. But right now, Ducha trying to come back. And, well, Rogers is not backing off here as they make the way through Agostini. Looking a bit further behind there, that is Richard Revens getting involved. And the Latvian driver back side by side with Lee Robinson, but Robinson gets ahead and Max Moron makes up another place there now into 14th place. Brilliant work there from the Sim It Esports Racing Team driver. As he makes his way through the left and in towards the right-hander, well, everyone's safely on through, minus those who did not make the way onto the grid, Stephen and Shade. I believe technical issues with their Mazdas, unfortunately, and therefore they have not been able to go racing thus far. But still, as our leader makes his way onto the Bentley Straight for the first time in racing anger, Harry Fletcher right now trying to run away with this. And, well, will he be able to do so? We'll have to wait and see. Oh, goodness me, what's gone wrong there? That is Max Moron and Lee Robinson having a bit of contact. Craig McCracken right now side by side with Martin Morton. And as they make the way on towards what will be the braking zone here, well, right now, Jaden Innes trying to get involved as well. But Martin here looking for an opportunity. And, well, goodness me, the eyelashes on that light blue Mazda. They've got some very colourful liveries out there. You love to see these, to be fair. I do love the fact. Got the series logo right at the side of the car as well. The 22 driver here. If there was an award for the driver with the biggest racing spirit, I would be giving it to the Hungarian driver right now as he makes his way around the outside there. What a move on Jaden it is. And meanwhile, look at Gabriel Ducha diving up the inside. Lovely attempt there for the 24 driver. Can't quite make it work and instead has to tuck back in behind. But onto the start finish straight they go. Oh, goodness me. What's happened to Kelvin Woodhead here? And that's the driver rejoining. That's Finley Secker. And Secker in the number 6 having a bit of a difficult moment as meanwhile Richie Holder side by side here. He's going to clear what will be Kelvin Woodhead quite quickly. So it's been a bit of an incident to end the lap. But what an open lap it has been for the season. And it's not over yet as Kira Boylan being passed on the inside there by Anton Grabowski. And right in the Bulgarian driver making that look quite clinical. But understand, I think Boylan here just settling down as a couple more drives go wide. And we'll talk more about how these cars drive in due course, those interested. Indeed, the Mazda MX-5 Cup car being one of the starter cars in iRacing, completely free as part of the iRacing subscription package. And indeed part of the Rookie series, which a lot of drivers, myself included, will do their first ever race on iRacing in before going on to bigger things, including the advanced MX-5 Cup, which is endurance racing in MX-5s. But meanwhile, here's Kurt Fusser and Jamie Rogers. Well, they make the way through. James Rogers there, let's get his name right. And as he makes his way around the outside there, well, Kurt Fawcett gets his elbows out for Altitude Frame Esports, the highly decorated sim racing team. Kurt Fawcett being one of their rookie drivers. And will Fawcett there definitely use the move that will make the likes of what would be none other than Reece Saunders amongst the other drivers very proud. But meanwhile, as we do see Beavis Lau going on the attack there versus Kira Boylan, still a bit of work to do for him. As meanwhile, Richard Revens had an instant, although we haven't got an eye on that at the moment. Oh, we've got an eye on that, however, and that is not the way you want to go. And that's Lee Robinson who's been turned around, coming out Oggies in towards Williams. I don't know how he's got there, but I can tell you one thing, he gets it pointed back in the right direction, just like lightning on the side of the car. That's not the way he's wanted it to go. Now, Harry Fletcher right now, he may have taken pole position by 1.3 seconds, but I'll tell you one thing, Ben Sieber and Connor Spruce are not letting him go. They seem to be really getting into the mix. Now, understandably, they do have a 10-minute qualifying session with a finite number of laps to try and get it all together. There's no overtime in qualifying, so once time's up, it's done. But right now, we're seeing a different tone at the front of the field. But into Coram Bend, and right now, what's Mark Martin going to be able to do here as we look back behind the light blue webbed car? And the answer is keep Craig McCracken behind, but the 57 driver goes up the inside. Oh my goodness, it goes a bit wrong there for Craig McCracken. And well, I thought that was going to be a contender for move of the season with McCracken going for it. But unfortunately there, you can see what he's trying to do. 10 out of 10 for effort for Craig McCracken. Just went a bit too high on the curb there. I think he ran out of braking time. And well, the car pulled to the apex curb when he really wanted to get up the inside. You could see what he was going to go for there. And well, unfortunately, he almost got it done there. If he'd been about, I would say, about a metre further to the right under braking, he would have got that move absolutely perfect. And that's why I had a big grin on my face when he went for it, because that's the move that you see in BTCC, the British Touring Car Championship, and McCracken's definitely been watching some of that, but the 57 trial couldn't quite make that happen. But he's carrying on, which is great to see. Now, we do have Thomas Stephen in the pit lane, so great news. The Scotsman who was meant to start second is now actually making his way out of the pit lane, albeit he is laps down, as is Matthew Shade, so both drivers will not be taking the side positions, as that's free wide in towards Palmer, and in the end, that's not going to work out for Kira Boylan, who gets turned sideways, and the driver gains all the pieces as a result of that is Kelvin Woodhead, who suddenly survives it all in the number 29 and moves up into 11th place. So he'll be very happy with that, I'm certain. As the drivers make the way through left-hand. Oh, that's gone round for Finley Secker. Holds his brakes there and immediately now gets himself off the racing line as quickly as he can. So good awareness there from the driver lounge racing driver in the number 6 when it could have gone very wrong and other drivers have gone into him. And that's the thing, when you completely go around like that and you're stuck in the middle of the road, as much as your brain tells you to get off the road, when you look at your relative and you see this car's been 2 to 3 seconds, depending on the car, of course, and the nature of the corner, hold your brakes and just sit there patiently. The yellow flags tell everyone around you there's a problem. But meanwhile, there's not a problem here. There's an overtake for him, because this is going to be Mark Martin versus James Rogers. Too wide here, and it's going to be the Hungarian on the right of your picture versus Rogers on the left. Onto the brakes they go, left into right here, and Rogers in the end tucks him behind. The 42 driver cannot quite make that work out, and instead just to glue himself to the back. But meanwhile, Bevis Lau looking up for the move there on, well, in fact, that's more going around the outside. We're going a bit deep into the corner is Woodhead. They all come back together. It's 3 wide, then it's 4 wide, and Kira Boylan, meanwhile, just squeezes her way past and says, well, you can all fight, gents. I'll just make my way through. And they're all going to be thinking, hold up a second, who let her past? And in the end, they'll be pointing fingers to each other. But that's opportunity at its finest. Well done to Boylan for that. Well, that takes awareness to be able to see there's a space on the inside there, with drives already 3 wide. But that goes to show you this circuit based on RAF Snetterton, the airfield that preceded it, much like many a British circuit in the United Kingdom, in the fact they're either based on airfields or Tertiary country estates, or this one an airfield. And right now, Boylan taking flight into the top 10. Goodness me, we've had some eventful moments so far. We've still got plenty more to go as Finley Secker goes back on the attack here as he bolts his way down the start for the straight. And we're building up the speed here as he goes into that braking zone. We do say hello there in the TSRC chat to Vinty D, who's cheering on Connor, and that's Connor Spruce that Vinty is cheering on. Great to have you tuning in today. And all these drivers making the way out. Well, Secker and Craig McCracken getting closer together. Secker looking up the inside this time. And does Finley get it done? He does. McCracken tried to turn in and then found a face with a Mazda there. But to be fair, he'll now tuck in and get back into the pack. But as they make the way around, here is Thomas Stephen. Ooh, I was going to say, here is Thomas Stephen. That's the car that's not looking too healthy there. I think that's where Rich's Bend he's gone straight on. I wonder if the technical issue with the car that stopped him going to the grid has actually come back. That might be a steering wheel failure if he's gone on. We will get a replay of that, ladies and gentlemen, when we can. But meanwhile, plenty more fighting on our screen. And Stephen has had to tow to the pits. And, well, Kelvin Woodhead fighting with Finley Secker. Seck up the inside then to Agostini and takes that place. But all these drivers absolutely pushing onwards as much as they possibly can. It's fantastic racing between them all. And as they make the way on through, well, right now we do come back from, where's this fighting? As much as we want to stay with it, we do need to just take a look to the front for a moment. Harry Fletcher leads by 2.3 seconds, and Ben Siever still bringing Connor Spruce to the party. There's your top 3, and just like that, we'll leave the beef for now, as we do then make our way back down to that fight for 11th place at the moment. And it is a fight and a half, as Kira Boylan in 10th place is being allowed to check out for a bit. But here comes Craig McCracken. Here comes Kelvin Woodhead. They are 3 wide. Bevis Lau also in that mix. And as they make their way into the braking zone here, well, someone's going to back out surely, but not Craig McCracken, who takes the 2 places just like that lovely move. But Lau versus Woodhead now. And Bevis Lau staying ahead of Woodhead there. You can tell that's Bevis Lau's car. He's got the light blue around the bumper with the black over the top of it, looking like essentially Zorro, if anybody remembers that movie from all those years ago. And meanwhile, well. Too wide there between Moran and Secker, and Finny Secker is going on the attack. On his way through those right-handers, and wants to come on round right now. Well, you can definitely see Max Moran there going a bit defensive, and well, Secker is on a mission to try and make his way past it, and Finny Secker absolutely working hard in order to make up all the ground that he lost earlier on. Remember, he started in 19th place. Since then, he's made his way all the way up into the top 10, slipped out of it, and is now trying to pick his way back up into it once again. And well, he's almost there. As meanwhile, the number 89 Moran making his way on that inside, and well, the Sim Esports racing team driver, much like McCracken and Bereslau, using liberal track limits there to try and carry a bit more speed. It's always natural, that's why you do have quite a few instant points. As meanwhile, I've just had a bit of a crunch there for somebody. Well, I believe that might have been a bit of contact between Moran and Secker as a result, and well, car went very wide there, and that was a long journey off the road for Kelvin Woodhead. So Woodhead going a bit too deep at Wilson, but getting it back on the road very quickly. But as he comes around, well, all this fighting right now calls these drivers to fall away. And Kira Boylan, meanwhile, has been brought right back into this as Finny Secker passes her. And that's going to be Moran on the inside now. Tries to get the hammer down. And we look back for the rear of his car. Making his way all the way through into the left-hander of Hamilton. Too wide they come in. That's going to be a move from Boylan here. Boylan looking on the inside. Too wide in. And right now the dinosaur machine goes back up the inside. It's a lovely move there from Boylan, but does she get it to stick? Not quite there as Moran looks around the outside of Oggies in towards Williams. Great defensive driving there from Max Moran. And meanwhile, we can see Craig McCracken and Bereslau side by side again. These two do not stop. But meanwhile, what's happening at the front of the field? Because there's Harry Fletcher, and then there's Connor Spruce and Ben Sieber. And once they make the way through, it's a fight for second place. Sunny on screens and Ben Sieber being passed. I don't think Sieber's had a good run there, coming through turn 9 to 10 as they clear bomb hole in towards Coram. I think Connor Spruce there's had the better run, and I think Ben Sieber's just had a bit slip off the road. As they make the way around, Spruce now up into second place. Can he go after the leader? Well, there's going to be a lot of work. Remember, there's 2 races here today. Next one coming up, top 8 inverted grid. So that means, how they finish this one, we invert the top 8. So that'll be interesting as to who then's got the pace to fight the way throughout. The leaders, who seem very comfortable. But as we do see, what is Jaden Innes make his way in towards turn 1. He's a bit lonely in full place at the moment with Gabriel Dutra 4 attempts behind in terms of pace, not quite able to close up. And there's Mark Martin ahead of James Rogers and Anton Gabrowski. So all these drivers right now a bit lonely out there, but I think this is now becoming a bit of a race of consistency. And with that, we get an opportunity then to take a look back at some big moments in the start of the race, including what happened right at the start for Richard Revins in towards the opening few quarters. And well, this was making his way through what was turn number 6, coming through Hamilton. Took a lot of curb there, and the rear of the car let go for Evans. And well, in the end, almost made his way back on himself. He would have done a 100 loop if he will, given the 100s the infield section only of this circuit. He gradually made his way back on and got himself back up to speed. We also did have a bit of difficulty for Lee Robinson. This was the fight with Max Moran. This was the big instance at the start of the race, where essentially Robinson was slightly elbowed out there, came to rejoin. I think Moran was thinking that he could come a bit further out, and Robinson came back on. I think the two of them will have a conversation after that one. I think they'll both feel as though the other inconvenienced them, when actually I think they both inconvenienced each other in reality. But we also got to see some great racing in front of them as Lee Robinson went all in there for underbraking, and so his rivals did behind. We also did have this for Kelvin Woodhead towards the end of the open lap, and this was Woodhead coming in towards the runner turn 13 with Finley Secker on the inside. Secker went for the move, hit the apex curb and tapped Woodhead, and the two of them getting caught at each other, and that explains what happened there. We saw that both had gone around, but we didn't know what exactly had happened to cause that, and well, there's the explanation. We've also had Matthew Shade rejoin the racing. He rejoined at the end of lap 1, so he's a lap down with his car that had the technical issues. But then we came to this big moment, and this of course was Mark Martin holding his ground versus McCracken, and so McCracken got the inside, went a bit too aggressive in on the braking, and Jaden Innes was just able to steer clear of the danger and take the place there. Some smart moving from Jaden Innes, and an innocent mistake there for McCracken, no doubt about it. But we also got to see some absolutely phenomenal battling on lap number 3, and this was Max Moran for Sim IT Esports Racing Team, looking to go on a mission, trying to make his way past Bereslau. Did so there, coming in towards turns 9 and 10, but then Lau tried to come back at him as Kelvin Woodhead got it all sorts of wrong. That led to the 3 wide, and then meanwhile, going around them all, well, it was none other than Kira Boylan who said, all right, I'll take 3 in 1. I've never seen that at bomb hole, and I've now seen everything at Snetterton, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to the Motorsport woman driver. But with that, we also did have Kurt Forster have a little bit of a moment when he was very comfortably up towards the front of the field. The altitude from Esports driver, well, made his way in towards and turn number 13. Onto the brakes he went, and the rear of the car just let go there on turning, went out wide. At that point, you are on a journey in your car. There's no coming back from that. And we unfortunately did have this for Kira Boylan only moments ago. This was the 2x2 coming in towards turn 13. And, well, in the end, the Motorsport woman driver getting a bit too hot into the corner, rear of the car let go, and once you've come in hot and the rear's unsettled, putting a rear left tyre with power down on that exit curb, there's no grip out there. But with that, we come back to your live racing. And as we do, Gabriel Dutra battling here with Mark Martin, and Martin trying to take the place back for 5th. He's got some work to do if he wants to be able to do that. And, well, if the number 24 driver holds his line, Martin still there. Remember, Mark, a very quick try. He was in the top 5 until his contact with what was none other than McCracken. So understandably, he'll feel as though he can finish inside the top 5. We also do have a replay coming up with regards to how Connor Spruce took 2nd place of Ben Sieber, and he's holding it. And in fact, we are going to quickly get that replay now, ladies and gentlemen. And this was on what was lap number 5 originally. So they have actually swapped the place back and forth a couple of times off camera, and this was the first time. So it was, as we suspected, Sieber making a bit of a mistake there coming through Nelson, and it was Spruce on the inside of the bomb hole. A lap later, they swapped the places back, and this was coming out of Hamilton in towards Oggies, and Ben Sieber, a lot more momentum, said, right, try this on for size, I'm going to go in on the brakes, a decisive move, and then Connor Spruce a lap later said, well, how about I try to do something a bit different? And Ben Sieber in the end went very deep going out of Wilson, and it was a drag race in towards Palmer, but who won the drag race? Well, in the end, it was going to be Connor Spruce. So that explains their story as we now come back to your live circuit side pictures, and that'll be it for the replays just for now. We don't want to confuse you too much with regards to what's going on now, because we've got some live action on our screen, and there's Gabriel Dutra fighting with Mark Martin as they come in towards turn number 1, and as they do, well, Dutra right now defended the inside, Martin the outside here, and he's still trying to make a move. He's getting very inventive as our 22 driver as he goes onto the brakes. We jump aboard the dashboard with him, and as he makes his way around right now, what a battle this is as they roll out. Good little battle. A bit of a rivalry burgeoning between these two, which is what we love to see, as they now make their way in towards that left-hander of Palmer. Will understandably mount that curb. For Martin, it's going to be a bit of a journey where the game plan's got to be when can you make the move. Sieber and Spruce have changed places once again at the front, so we can only see 1 or 2 battles at a time. And here comes Martin looking up the inside, but in the end under braking too far back. Gabriel Dutra called him out on it, and Martin's going to go around, gets the power down. That's worn tyres there. That rear right tyre started to show its age, and Martin taking a spin there. And well, so eager to make a move. It's so easy to do as Kurt Fawcett does the same at the hairpin. Well, at least he's been turned around by something, we're not quite sure what. And in Sonny Agostini, we see another fight pick up, as this is Moron versus McCracken. 2 wide they go in towards Hamilton Bend, who's going to be leading the pair of them into the corner. And the answer is going to be, it'll be Moron there as McCracken falls back. Finley Secker, he's going to pass there Mark Martin, so he takes the place. The number 6 driver, he moves up into 8th place with 3 minutes to go in this race. Remember, that 8th place is pole position for race number 2. Everybody wants it, essentially. If you're not going to win this race or be on the podium for it, you really do want that 8th place or as close as possible to it, if you can help yourself, because then you take pole and you have a great opportunity to be on the podium for the final race of the day. But here they go into the braking zone. 2 wide. It is going to be Martin back on the inside for Brundle into Nelson. And then he'll get that done, as Seck has no real response there other than to back off. But Martin makes a little bit of a squirrely mistake coming out to turn number 10. In towards the bomb hole they go, which, by the way, is not named after a bomb or anything like that. Munitions-wise, dropping there in the Second World War. There's a completely different reason for it, although I can't quite share it on this broadcast, because we do need to keep it what is rated sub-13. As they make their way in towards the braking zone for turn number 13. Coming in towards Murray's, it's also known. Well, switch back there. 52nd goes all in, but they make contact, and notice Martin immediately put the brakes on, but the problem is, as Kevin Fawcett takes space of action, he almost ends up in the pit lane. He doesn't quite in the end. My goodness, what a moment there. Great reactions from everybody involved, and Martin had put the brakes on not to turn Secker around, but understandably the heat of the moment was on the grass in doing so, so the right-hand side tyres had less grip than the left-hand side, and that's why the left side of the car suddenly got pulled so aggressively around. And Kevin Fawcett there did a phenomenal job of just, Kurt Fawcett I should say, not Kevin, goodness me, let's get his name right, did a phenomenal job there of avoiding action, otherwise it could have been a bit of a tricky one. But that goes to show you, these drivers may be rookies, but to be fair, they are gaining a lot of experience already as Connor Spruce back ahead of Ben Sieber. But look who they're bringing to the party, ladies and gentlemen. Jaden it is. He's just been watching off in the distance right now. And, well, he definitely, if he could, he would have popcorn inside that car. He'd have a bucket between his legs, and he'll be taking a bite out of it, watching the two in front of him fight. But now he's getting closer. The popcorn's going to have to go in the footwell to the right of him, and instead he's going to focus on trying to close them down as he chucks the car at Oggie's Bend. Now, of course, these Mazda MX-5 Cup cars, they have about 180 brake horsepower at the rear wheels, as powered by 2-litre inline-4 Sky Active G engine. And the whole aim of the game is front-engine rear-wheel drive. So all the weight's at the front of the car. The front tyres do the turning work. Meanwhile, the power is done by the rear wheels. So this makes them very different for our Clio Cup cars that have a similar amount of power, but they're front-engine front-wheel drive. So the front wheels do a lot of the work. The rear tyres do work as well, but nowhere near as much when it comes to power and drive. So the aim of the game is essentially you've got to be a little bit more careful on the throttle of these cars, not because of understeer, but because of the risk of oversteer. You need to get that traction, you need to get the rear tyres to grip up, the rear outside tyre always, and in doing so, then that makes the magic work. But as we do see, Max Moran looking for the move on Craig McCracken. Not quite coming forward this time as our leader makes his way onto the final lap. And Moran, they're getting squeezed up onto the apex curb of what was Nelson Hill. Phil was squeezed up there, but I don't think he was ever going to get fully alongside. So I think he was trying to go for a door that was being shut gradually. But again, great effort there, saw the space. Meanwhile, Lee Robinson, side by side here with Kira Boylan, who's been up, down and around this field. Boylan there going defensive. They make contact at the braking. They get caught at each other. And meanwhile, Bereslau comes on through. Unfortunately, it's between the two of them. But meanwhile, lead in the race. 10 seconds ago, he's on to his 10th and final lap of this one. It is none other than Harry Fletcher charging around. And right now, we're a 12-second gap to Connor Spruce. It looks very much set to take that winning step of the podium. But who's going to do the second and third steps? Will it be Spruce and Sieber? If so, which way will they stand on it? And can Jaden Innes potentially interrupt the party and make it a menage a trois on this final lap here in Norfolk County? We'll have to wait and see, because, of course, we've got one more race after this. But right now, those maiden podiums are going to feel quite special for these drivers as they come charging on around as they roll the way onwards. And we'll Polar Iridium at their side. It's 185 brake horsepower of the car, so it does seem as though a bit of a fault there with regards to the amount of power, and good spot there, good sir. Well, Richie Holder, unfortunately, into the pit lane, I do believe, with a difficulty with the car. In fact, a black flag for Richie Holder, so too many instant points, and Richie Holder has picked up a drive-through penalty for 15 or more instant points. And those drive-through penalties, of course, they are go through the pit lane on the limiter. And the instant point system, for those curious how iRacing does instant, it's done based on the following. It's 1 instant point for an off-track, which is where you're deemed to have gone too wide out of a corner or cut a track limit. 2 instant points if you lose control of your car. That's a loss of control. As meanwhile, here comes Ben Sieber very much in control to try and go on the attack. But in the end, a bit too tight there. Going for Brundle. That's not going to work out. And it's 4 instant points if you make contact with another car. And iRacing does not discriminate whether you're the one who calls the instant or not. Both of you get the 4 instant points at that point. So very quickly, 4 contacts, and you can be with a drive-through penalty just like that in this series. But meanwhile, for Harry Fletcher, make no mistake, there's been no instant for this man because he took pole position by 1.3 seconds, was under pressure early on, but Harry Fletcher will take victory here for Bruta Racing with EFR in the first race of the 2026 Championship. It will then be the second step of the podium, but is it going to be Connor Spruce? Is it going to be Ben Sieber? The answer to that question, it is going to be none other than, it's going to be Connor Spruce, who just takes it by 100th of a line ahead of Ben Sieber. Jaden Innes takes 4th place behind, and it'll be Gable Dutra who takes 5th ahead of Jamie Rogers in 6th. Anton Gabrowski finishes 7th, and it'll be Finley Secker who comes on through to complete your top 8 and will take pole position for race number 2. Kurt Fawcett just missed out in 9th place ahead of Mark Martin, and then we will see Craig McCracken behind them at 3 seconds adrift in 11th ahead of Max Moron, and it'll be Kelvin Woodhead in 13th place, a bit further behind. Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen, to the line as we do look to the camera here as they make their way onwards. And well, definitely right now, Kelvin Woodhead has had a good race. He's got himself back into this one, which is great to see. Bevis Lau is heading towards the line now, and your number 20 driver here powering his way onwards with Richard Revins, who had that big excursion in the open lap. He's put himself back into 15th place behind Lau, and then we will have Lee Robinson a further 10 seconds behind. Here he heads towards his finish line. Give them all a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, there have been some incidents. Yes, there's been some trips to the grass, but to be fair, none of them have given up. They've all kept going. The only driver who has given up, unfortunately, is Thomas Stephen, but we believe his technical issue that stops him from getting to the grid has come back to haunt him as a result of a turn 1 incident. Kira Boylan takes up 17th place, and well, we will have finishing a lap down in due course this man, Richie Holder. and also Matthew Shade, just a little bit further back. But to be fair, both drivers are going to make it to the finish, and that's what we love to see from our rookies in this series. Indeed, they'll grow pace and they'll grow experience as this season goes on, and we'll understand we will see some names that are finishing towards the back of the field today. They could be right towards the front of the field come the very end of the season. But here he comes, none other than Matthew Shade, as he makes his way onwards, and as he comes on down towards the timing line, Matthew Shade will finish a lap down in 19th place, be your last classified finisher of this race. But Harry Fletcher soaks it all in as he cools on down, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, as we do see him make his way towards the pit lane, he'll be pleased with that. I can see a few fans of Harry Fletcher there, including Gamble Jungle, and also none other than, I do believe, well, I think that is Harry Fletcher, plus, oh, well, not Harry Fletcher, my sorries. It's none other than Joey Jarink. I was trying to understand exactly how to say the name there, and indeed the Summit usernames that always make me get a bit of a tongue twister, and also Sky Mayonnaise there, and, well, all cheered on Harry, and very happy for him. But, ladies and gentlemen, as our drivers take a bit of a breather, some of them decide to go back out to the circuit and keep the adrenaline flying. Others, meanwhile, decide to cool it down. Well, let's take a look at that scenic view, and with it, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, he took pole position in qualifying and he took the win. And to say, Gamble Jungle saying some call him the special one, some say he's a legend. All we know is he's Harry Fletcher. And indeed, that's what we do know, is the EFR with Rota Racing Drive taking that win by 12.7 seconds. But again, he now has to start in 8th place for race number 2. He has to fight his way through the field. So Fletcher may have the pace, but does he have the overtaking nuance? We'll have to wait and see. Connor Spruce, second there, the privateer, ahead of Ben Sieber. What a fight between the two of them. And in the end, Connor Spruce took it by 8 thousandths of line for the runner-up spot, and Jaden List at 4th place, just ahead of Gable Dutra. The Brazilian driver in completed the top 5 ahead of James Rogers, who really did a great job, to be fair, and you can't understate what the Canadian driver did in the 42, making sure to secure that 6th, just ahead of Anton Gabrowski, who had a relatively exciting first half of the race, but the second half of the race was definitely a quiet 10 minutes, and then we did see in 8th place Finley Secker for Drive Lounge Racing, ahead of Kurt Fawcett, who was 9th. The Altitude Freedom Esports Drive just missed out on that top 8 reverse grid. It will be Finley Secker who takes pole for the next race ahead of Anton Gabrowski, and we will see there Mark Martin in 10th. In 11th is Craig McCracken ahead of Max Moron, with Kelvin Woodhead 13th ahead of Beavis Lau. Richard Revens took 15th ahead of Lee Robinson, with Kira Boylan unfortunately seeing her escapades, and indeed the 4 wide overtake from Kira Boylan amount to not very much at the end, taking 17th, but was a lap ahead of Richie Holder and Matthew Shade, and well, then did see finishing a few laps down Thomas Stephen, but he did get to the end as classified, and well, I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, that is all of our 20 drivers listed there. But of course, we've got one more race to come here at the absolutely wonderful Snetterton circuit. And as we do look to the wonderful scenic view, that bridge there, you see the bridge by which spectators do get into the inside of the circuit, indeed all the racing teams as well. And indeed, one of those circuits whereby you can pretty much camp anywhere you want on the outside of the circuit and get a good view. And the wonderful thing about a circuit based on an airfield is the fact it's a very flat circuit, minimal elevation change, and a lot of places, particularly on the inside of the circuit, you can see almost the entirety of the circuit minus 1 or 2 corners. But as it all make the way around, well, all the drivers absolutely itching for another one. That's why Richard Revens is out there. And we want to see what the number 16 driver can do in the white and red stripe machine. I'm going to put some theory out there, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to say I'm going to put some money on this, but I'm not allowed to put bets out there. And I don't encourage any of you to bet. We don't encourage betting here at Motorsport UK Esports. Richard Revens, if he had not had that moment coming out of what was Hamilton at the start of the race, could he have gone chasing after a top 10? He looked quick. He definitely looked a lot happier in the Rev Racing machine once he was into race rather than qualifying mode. Let's wait and see what he can do. But I think he's going to be one of those drivers who really will surprise us. Now, of course, whilst we do have a moment, we've got some great news to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. And that is that we do have none other than an update on our prizes for this season. Now, we did say earlier on that second and third places prizes from Simagic were yet to be confirmed. We now do have confirmation of what those prizes will be, and the confirmation is that the second place official will receive the GT Neo wheel alongside a set of gloves from Phil. That wonderful wheel, of course, and just to remind you a little bit about it, in the fact that the GT Neo wheel being up for grabs as the best-selling wheel at Simagic, and it's easy to see why once you feel the build quality, particularly with all the different items on it that any pro-level racer driver would want, let alone, say, a rookie or indeed a developing driver, including RGB lighting, thumb encoders, and silent shifters, and a double clutch including standard. And meanwhile, for the third place finisher, it will be a set of P700 pedals. Round off those prizes, built for serious adjustability without the serious price tag, where it's easily expandable, of course, with the best-selling haptic reactors at Simagic, great for feeling ABS or traction control, or in the case of these Mazda MX-5s, really feeling that throttle pedal and when you've got the slip of traction on those rear tyres. So huge thank you to the team at Motorsport UK Esports for confirming that whilst we have been covering the racing, and also a huge thank you to Simagic as one of our official 2 prize partners, but of course a huge shout out as well to Phil for being our other prize partner and supplying our top 3 in the championship with what will be an absolutely brilliantly pair of crafted gloves for sim racing. Indeed, nothing quite like the feel of Phil's gloves. But ladies and gentlemen, just like that, 5 minutes passes by. You know what time it is? It's time for race number 2. Let's head to the grid, shall we? For what will be our final race here at Snetterton for this round 1 of the season. But who's going to win it? Can Harry Fletcher do the double? Or will we see a different name on top? Let's find out. And as our drivers make the way to the grid for the second and final time today, it's going to be as follows. They line up. Vinny Secker takes pole position for that top 8 inversion for Light Drive Lounge Racing, joined on the front row of the grid by Anton Gabrowski. We then do see James Rogers starting third, the priority in the company of Gabriel Dutra. Then we do have Jaden Innes beginning this one in 5th place, ahead of Ben Sieber for DCW Racing, with the priority of Connor Spruce, and Harry Fletcher for EFR, with Rotor Racing completing the top 8. Then we do have Kurt Fawcett starting 9th for Altitude Freedom Esports. Watch out for him, he'll be eager, with none other than Mark Martin starting 10th place. And it'll be Craig McCracken and Max Moran who complete your top 12. Outside the top 12, we will see in 13th place none other than Kelvin Woodhead ahead of Beavis Lau, with Richard Evans ahead of Lee Robinson, Makira Boylan and Richie Holder completing your 9th row and completing that starting order. Matthew Shade and Thomas Stephen, and hopefully we get to see them go racing at this time out of that top 20, because understand for Thomas Stephen, as he looks all the way to the back of that grid, he was your front row 2nd place starter of race number 1, and to a technical issue with the number 4 prevented him from going green flag racing. And Matthew Shade also had some difficulty as he tried to get off the line, but hopefully we get to see both of them go green flag racing, and if so, how far can they claw their way through the field? For Thomas Stephen, this will feel like it's a race of redemption. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Finley Secker, if you look out the rear of his car, it's a long line of Mazdas he needs to hold behind him for Drive Lounge Racing. That's not going to be easy, and remember, of course, he's got drivers of similar pace and consistency around him first, and then you'll come to the quicker drivers who try to carve their way through the field. That is the hard part of this one, and that's why we need to keep our eyes on Sieber, Spruce and Fletcher, because they're the ones, they've proven they can run at the front, they've proven they can run away, but how do they do when they're in the pack? And the first part to a good run through the pack, of course, is you need a good start to the race. Harry Fletcher then will need to get the best possible launch in that car. Well, it's time to find out what he can do, ladies and gentlemen, because here come the lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights in Norfolk go on. And they all go out. As it's lights out and away we go. And as they do, well, it seems a few drivers there having a bit of a slow start as they roar the way down towards turn number 1. Everyone's safely on through, although we have had Connor Spruce and Beavis Lau head to the pit lane due to technical issues with their cars. But as we do see Finley Secker hold on to lead and Tom Grabowski right behind, and they make the way towards Wilson Hairpin. And we look to the blimp camera now as they make the way through. A couple of drivers going a bit wide, including Gabriel Dutra, but into that braking zone. And as the camera catches up with the front of the field, there's Ben Sieber looking up the inside already of Dutra. He's going to make it into 4th place. Sieber is flying right now. And meanwhile, behind there, a bit of elbows out. That was none other And then Kurt Fawcett being elbowed around the field and into that braking zone. They go on! There's contact there! As it's going to turn him around. Not the way he's wanted it to go. And Kurt Fawcett being caught out there. And as he does so, he gets himself back together. And with Lee Robinson being collected as well. Couldn't quite see who started the contact. We've seen how it's ended. And meanwhile, as they make the way in towards the hairpin of Agostini. Well, too wide there behind. That is Craig McCracken diving up the inside of his old rival from today. And that is none other than Mark Martin. Those two absolutely fight each other as hard as humanly possible. Great racing between them. And And well, as they make the way through the left-hander right now, there's very little between the pair other than what is the tarmac that says that they've got to go up single file wide. But as we look back to Richard Evans, he's having some slight technical issues, and well, that's leading to discontinuity of his connection, and hope that's not the sign of an incoming issue with the car, because if it is, he could be out the race. There he is. He's already up into 12th place, and as we said earlier on, watch out for this man. He could be very quick. We're wondering just how much pace he's got if he can keep it together. But meanwhile, to the front, and here is Finley Secker ahead of Anton Grabowski, and then look behind Ben Sieber, his breed Ducha, it is Fletcher, Rogers all into the pack at the scramble. Here they come through, and that's going to be Martin up the inside of James Rogers, and right now, I can tell you one thing, Mark Martin knows no fear whatsoever here, but here comes Craig McCracken, they're going to go free wide into bomb hole, and as they make the way in, well, immediately Rogers backs out there and says, I want no part of this, thank you very much, I've seen it all happen before, and we're understanding right now, Craig McCracken, he's absolutely brave. McCracken's got the fire lit under him. Mark Martin side by side as they make the way through the right in towards the left. This is incredible. A tiny touch. But Martin backs off there. And Craig McCracken being absolutely brave and gets through. But the Scotsman right now. Well, I'll tell you one thing. This is the Scottish resistance at its finest. Meanwhile, we do have a change here, potentially for third place. Sieber might be back past by Gabriel Dutra. And Dutra right now not giving up on this one as Dutra cuts to the middle of the road. Sieber falls back in line, but understand, remember, they have got 20 minutes this one. No pit stop. It's all going to happen out on the circuit, and therefore they need to protect the tyres and manage the race a little bit. You don't have the tyre life to go 20 minutes at full attack. Normally the tyres in these Mazda MX-5s, they will go about 10 minutes at full pelt before you'll start to feel the wear on them. So therefore you do have to manage their lifespan a little bit, and that's what you learn in the Rookie Official Series in iRacing, is that essentially these Mazda MX-5s, you have to protect them slightly in what is those 10 to 15 minute races, and then when you do start to go to 20 minute races such as this, that's when time management becomes a bit of a fault. But of course, in the heat of the moment, you don't really think about time management, you think about the guy you're battling with, and that's exactly what Martin and McCracken are doing. Right now, I tell you one thing, whether they're battling for what is 7th place right now or 30 for the win, it doesn't matter. These two absolutely chucking themselves at this. And it's brilliant racing as Max Moran would like to get involved as well, although he can't quite at the moment. He has to just simply play the game of wait, watch and listen for an opportunity. Kelvin Woodhead, meanwhile, he'd had a bit of a difficult start, but he's now back ahead of what is Matthew Shade. He's chased after Thomas Stephen, and good to see Thomas Stephen has been able to get that car going. No issues with it at the moment, but as soon as I say that, that's context curse for you, ladies and gentlemen. And Thomas, I apologise in advance when you watch this broadcast back later if you do, because definitely I think I've caused that spin for you. But meanwhile, change of leader. Finley Secker does have a slowdown penalty. He's got a bit of a track limits coming out. Williams and Anton Grabowski goes through. But meanwhile, looking back for third place, Ben Sieber on the inside to outside there, but losing the rear of the car to break. It is free wide and through goes Harry Fletcher as he makes his way up in towards Bomberhole Bend. And meanwhile, Dutra and Sieber are battling once again. It's almost as if they haven't noticed that Fletcher's gone past them. It's suddenly gone, oh, okay. Let's fight once again. So as they make the way through Cora Bend, well, right now, Dutra on the inside, Sieber on the outside. You can see Sieber has to lift off there, second way apart through Coram in order to make sure he doesn't understeer wide. And Dutra's able to get back on that inside line, but then realises it's a door that's going to close. He can't make a move like that happen. So as a result, Dutra now falls back into line with Jaden Niss, Mark Martin, Craig McCracken and Max Moran behind. James Rogers closed up as well. But it's literally as they proceeded on to the previous lap. It is now Dutra attacking Sieber going in towards Rich's Bend, looks around the outside again, and well, this time can't make it work, but Jaden Innes says, well, if you're not going to make it work, I will, thank you very much, as we ride aboard the gyro camera here, start top of the roll cage, and Jaden Innes right now, well, his GoPro definitely going very nicely to give us this footage as they make the way through turn number 2, taps the rear of Dutra there, and he'll get away with that, but remember, he's in a long line of cars as they come out to the right and in towards the left hand of Palmer, and right now there's very little change between them other than all the fighting. But look behind, you will see there's a battle going on. That is, I do believe, Morton being passed by Moran, and meanwhile as they make the way on towards Agostini, well, there's change at the front because Gabrowski, after getting ahead of Finley Secker, had that slowdown penalty. Secker makes his return. We're going too wide in towards Hamilton Bend here. It is a very close fight between them as they really become the focus of attention at the front. Oh, a bit of elbows out there. Gabrowski's not going to like that as he defends in towards Oggies, but Secker immediately there. You can see he pulls out wide. That gives Gabrowski time to rejoin, but unfortunately Gabrowski on a tight line doesn't carry the speed. Secker doesn't realise it. Gabrowski puts his brakes on just in the right time, and he's going to try and get that car turned around. He's got some space to do so, to be fair, and Richard Evans is able to come through clear. And so Gabrowski, a round of applause to you, sir, because that is some very smart rejoining. And as they make the way onwards, Finley Secker, unfortunately, making some contact there. Something tells me that may go to the stewards' room after the race is complete today. Of course, all the incidents reviewed post-round, ladies and gentlemen, so long as they are protested by drivers, and therefore the stewards will be a little bit busy. But understandably, in the heat of the moment, what you've got to do, if you're number 6 of Finley Secker, you think to yourself, right, I know what's happened, I own that, I've got to now move on the race. You cannot try to give the place back. If your rival's right behind you, yes, you can. And the stewards always do like to see that. If you can address the position on circuit, there normally is no need for the incident to be reported. However, when it's as big a gap as that and you can't really give up the place, given the fact you would then impede all the other drivers, you've just got to get your head down. And that's what rookies do, and that's what the professionals have to do. They have to go cold to it. You may be involved in an incident. It's up to the stewards to decide what to do with it. And that's why right now, instead, he's got to focus on Harry Fletcher, who's looking to the inside pit wall alongside him, going to the pit lane there, but that's not going to work because Secker says there's no space here on the inside. And Harry Fletcher right now throwing the car all over the road here. You would think there's about 3 of him in the rearview mirrors of Secker. No, there's just 1 of him, but he's looking left, he's looking right, he's looking everywhere right now. The only thing he can't do is go over the top of Secker or go underneath him, because that would be physically impossible, as much as you'd like to try and do it. As the old nursery rhyme goes there, well, we can't go under it, we can't go over it, so we're going to have to go through it in terms of a valley. But right now, Harry Fletcher's going to have to try and go past Secker the only way he knows how, with a daring overtake. But Craig McCracken fighting with Gabriel Dutra, so they're now fighting for 4th as Ben Sieber's made a bit of clearance from the Brazilian driver, and it's the Scotsman, the Brazilian. And well, I think right now they're going to be reliving the 2026 FIFA World Cup here, Scotland versus Brazil. It was Brazil who took the resounding result in the end, if my memory serves me correctly, but right now can the Scottish driver regain some national pride here? Oh, that's good around for Jaden Innes, and unfortunately there, Max Moron and also Mark Martin coming straight into the scene of Innes' wayward car. Innes' mistake there, but Innes getting it wrong. Meanwhile, Thomas Stephen looking up the inside of Matthew Shade. Good move from Stephen there, and well, Shade delivery absolutely on point, but not on point for that position right now, and that will be Thomas Stephen up in the 14th. More places to be made for your number 4 driver. Can he get himself into the top 10 before this one is said and done? He's got the pace, he just needs to make those places little by little. Kira Boylan as well, we should talk a little bit about her, the Motorsport woman driver in the number 14, up into 11th place. 6 places gained since the start. She's doing a brilliant job here, and things definitely looking calm, cool and collected. Meanwhile, Craig McCracken having to serve a slow down there, down the Bentley Straight, and when doing so, falls back to 6th place. That slow down for track limits coming out of Williams, I do believe, where he's just taken a bit too much exit curb of the car, and unfortunately, he has gained inappropriate time, according to the stewarding system. And if you are wondering how exactly does iRacing calculate the time you've gained, it is based on a roll in that average, essentially. Now, I don't know the exact mathematics, but you can imagine it takes, say, your 3 or 5 previous fastest laps, or your 5 last lap set, and it will be based on the average of those versus the time you gained out of that corner that time. And if it is deemed to be excessive and you were off track based on the track limits, then it is considered a cut the course where you gain the time. You can cut the course and not pick up a slowdown penalty. Normally what drivers will do in order to be able to do that, it's not game in the system, but they know they're going to cut the course, they immediately stamp on the brakes in order to try and get rid of any time they've gained, and that way they don't pick up the slowdown on top. But meanwhile, Mark Martin all the way back of James Rogers with Richard Revins. Remember, we said watch out for this man. The number 16 driver right now on the back end of the top 10, and I think he fancies his chance at the top 5 here. He's still got half this race to go. Well, next target, of course, is Martin, who definitely has been in all the fights here today, and with the light blue machine. Well, if that livery stays that way, you'll know where all the battles are, because you just need to look to the eyelash machine. That's definitely, I think it needs to redo its makeup, ladies and gents, because that is a bonnet on the number 22 that is quite raised, but Mark Martin absolutely enjoyed himself out there. Also some damage to James Rogers' car, to be fair. The deep green machine at the front, giving way to different colours over the course of the car. But Martin looks up the inside, in towards Agostini. Not close enough, but it does upset James Rogers' concentration. He will gain that place there. Rogers just cut himself a bit too wide out the corner. And now Richard Revins gets ready to attack as we ride aboard with the number 16. Now make his way through the corners here. The speedo on the bottom right corner of your screen in kilometres an hour, and this gives you an idea of how much speed they're carrying. If you want to follow it in miles per hour, just take the number you see and halve it. So not quite halve it. Take what would be 2/3 of it approximately, or about 60%. As Richard Revins goes a bit wide there, gets it wrong going through Williams, and well, a bit of understeer creeps in and upsets the car, and that I think was transitional oversteer to understeer there, but we'll come back to that later and explain what exactly we're on about. Because meanwhile, well, here's two drivers going side by side. This is going to be Max Moron versus Gabriel Dutra. Dutra on the inside to outside line there. That's not going to work. Craig McCracken now says, well, I'm going to go for this, and he's going to try and make the move. Now, we have had a change for lead off camera. We will come back to that. I know many of you may have spotted that. That's Fletcher versus Finley Secker, and that has changed hands quite recently. There they are. There's confirmation of your move, but how exactly did Harry Fletcher finally take the lead off of Fendi Secker? Well, the good news is we go back in time to find out. And this was coming all the way through. And the corners there of, I do believe, oh goodness me, that was coming in towards Williams, and Secker in the end, I think, had a little bit of a penalty there to serve, so Secker actually had to back off before he got to the corner, but you can see why he did it there and not back off on the straight. He wanted to be in the slipstream of Harry Fletcher, who scooped around the outside, and the idea was that he would pick up the draft. But we must come back to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen, because the two of them are fighting now, going into Wilson hairpin. This is on lap number 6, so approximate 10. They're still fighting each other absolutely tooth for nail, and Fendi Secker retakes the lead. This is absolutely brilliant racing between them, and as they make the way through the left-hander, well, right now Harry Fletcher's going to have to work hard here, and I'm sure Secker's got quite a few fans as well, and indeed everyone absolutely loving this back and forth battle between them. As they head on down, and well, I see their car is asking the question, what causes the car issues at the start of the race? And well, we'll explain that very shortly. Let's just make sure we're not missing too much here, and I think we are in a period of a bit quiet, although as I say that, Craig McCracken comes charging through stage left. Oh, goodness me, Craig, not like that! And he's into the barrier there. The car just snaps loose to him, and well, to the barrier, he's going to have to tow there, but then suddenly, Kurt Fawcett looking for a move on Kira Boylan, and well, trying to make the move there, but Boylan defends it. Jaden Niss and Thomas Stephen are right there. So what we'll quickly do, ladies and gentlemen, we'll answer that question. Why do cars sometimes tow to the pits at the start? Well, it can be when a driver has missed the grid in time, so essentially not got into the car in time before they are required to be there. Alternatively, they've got connectivity issues, which resets them to the pit lane. Alternatively, they've got an issue with their sim racing hardware, so they get out the car and go to the pits. But right now, they're not getting out of the way for each other here, because Fendi Secker defends on the inside versus Harry Fletcher. Fletcher still attacking Ben Sieber in the behind right now, thinking about this as they make the way through Bomb Hole Corner, and Fletcher is finding his equal in Secker in this second race. He may have run away in race number 1, but right now Fendi Secker is trying everything at this to try and hold him back as they make the way through Corbin. Fletcher squeezes him and manages to get ahead right now. Fletcher knows exactly where he needs to get the move done. Now it's a good exit here, which would set him up for a run. You can see there, Fendi Secker does run a little bit wide, use all the curb. He's allowed to do that as they power the way on to lap number 7. We do have another 7 minutes to go here. Fletcher goes to the outside. He wants the fastest possible line for Riches, and Fendi Secker's going to risk it all on the inside. Does he go onto the brakes in the driver line racing driver? He does, frozen up the inside of the road to racing machine. Too wide they go in as they make the way out. Fendi Secker back into lead for now, and as they make the way into the braking zone, Ben Sieber tries to get involved. Fletcher dives up the inside, and right now he says, if Secker's going to do it, I can do it too. Ben Sieber still watching this right behind and thinking to himself, what do I do to get involved? And right now the DCW racing team will be on the wall, and I wouldn't be surprised if Paddy Falconer's there himself saying to him, just be patient, as they may take each other out. Secker on the inside here. Fletcher gives him the space. They touch as they come out to Palmer Bend. They touch again as they make the way down towards Agostini. It's Fletcher coming across now. Secker looking around the outside, and well, it's absolutely decisive racing. Remember, this is not the final lap. We've got plenty more laps to go, but they're fighting as if this is the end of the championship as they make the way on through, and Fletcher takes the lead back. And Agostini now, is that it? Is that going to be the end of that battle for now? As they make the way out the corner, we'll have to wait and see. And as they make the way into the braking zone here for Oggies, getting themselves out for Williams, where Fletcher gets one good run here and can open up that gap to around about a second. He will neutralise the slipstream. These Mazda MX-5s, they pick up the draft of each other out to 2 seconds distance. They do cut a big hole in the air in front of them, and they pick up a draft very quickly, particularly when you're over the second. So that gap of half a second right now that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen in terms of our battle box, that gap can suddenly really come down. That's why Fletcher's doing a very gentle weave down the Bentley straight. He's just trying to break the toe a little bit, but he doesn't want to put any excess tyre wear in if he can help it. Every time you weave down a straight, you take a bit of life off the edge of the tyre essentially, and that hurts when you go into very tricky bends such as Brundle into Nelson. But Fletcher now seems to have some degree of control over this battle, and well, with that, it gives an opportunity to come back to 3 wide here as we do look to the blimp camera. That's going to be Kurt Fawcett on the outside. It will be Kira Boylan in the middle. And that's going to be Thomas Stephen, who goes through. Lovely move there from the Scotsman. He clears the ball. What about that for Thomas Stephen? Well, right now, he may not be winning this race, but he's going to be winning a few hearts there. The man, of course, who couldn't get in the car in race number 1 due to an issue with it. But the number 4 driver right now makes his way around. He's up in the 10th place. He's still got more places to gain. 2.5 seconds up the road is Richard Revins. There's Anton Gabrowski. I think he feels as though he could go a lot further than this still, and he's going to show his talent here right now. Meanwhile, Connor Spruce, we all went to the pit lane early on due to some damage, but he's side by side there with Matthew Shea trying to fight. But meanwhile, as we look from towards the rear of the field, we must come back to the front because Harry Fletcher had to go defensive once again. And right now, I can definitely tell you what the livery's on that car as well. We'll come back to that shortly, but that's a football-themed livery. I think that's West Ham. I presume he's a West Ham supporter. But Fletcher right now has to put up a good defence here and then trying to put up a defence that even Declan Rice would be proud of, if I remember my footballing teams correctly. But as he makes way through, we'll finish second right now, trying to come through. They touch, they grind against each other right now with 4 minutes left on the clock. It's Secker on the inside, it's Fletcher on the outside, and Finley Secker is not giving up here. Ben Seaver, meanwhile, is just watching this right now, probably thinking to himself, what do I have to do to get a little bit closer and get involved? And every time he tries to get a bit closer, it does seem as though that gap just opens up. As meanwhile, Max Moron and Gabriel Dutra are 4 seconds behind, but close on each other. Absolutely brilliant racing there. Even our social media manager in the YouTube chat for the Motorsport UK Esports YouTube channel, he's absolutely loving it. You're all loving it, and we're loving it here in the commentary booth. Although, to be fair, I don't know what's going to end first, this battle or my vocal cords at this point, ladies and gentlemen. We've got 5 rounds of this. Not all today, of course, but over the course of the season, I'm definitely going to need a few Strepsils. But as they make the way onwards, Fletcher right now, here he comes once again. He gets closer and closer now on the outside to get the inside of what will be Nelson. This could be smart position here from Fletcher, but he's got to wheel the brakes, uses the white line there. And as they make the way on the brake in second, does not give in. But now into the very sharp 90-degree corner. Fletcher backs out entirely. He knows he can't make that corner. Not like that. Finley Secker does get under his skin that time. Great work from Secker, but Fletcher's not giving up just yet. As they come in on through, well, a big question being asked, what happened to Anton Grabowski? And well, we are going to get a quick replay of what happened to him, ladies and gentlemen, if we can. And well, he was all the way out there, of course. This was back on lap number 3 for Anton, and it all went a bit wrong. And this was the battle at the time between himself and Finley Secker, where he did go off the road, and that was coming out of Agostini into doggies, and then Secker unfortunately tapped on the rear because Grabowski didn't get the exit that Secker anticipated on that tighter line. So that's what we saw happen to the Hungarian driver, for those wondering. But as we do come back, Grabowski is on a recovery drive there in 8th place at the moment, and that was there for none other than Polaridium, who's cheering him on. But meanwhile, as we do see Grabowski make his way onwards, we do look to Kurt Fawcett coming up behind him as well. You can see them all here together right now. We've got 2 minutes left to go, and right now Fawcett versus Boylan. Boylan trying to go as defensive as possible as they make the way past us into that braking zone. And what's it going to be here? Will Fawcett be able to get the move done? No, Kira Boylan holds her ground. But as she does so, more fighting up the road. Gabriel Dutra still fighting with Max Moron. Our lead battle has got a little bit cold for a brief moment. Although, to be fair, I think it essentially just left the oven for a moment in order to cool, be turned over. And I'm sure our top 3 are going to get back to each other before this is over. As that's a big launch up the inside there from what will be at Max Moron. Does he get it stopped in time? The answer is yes. And Gabriel Dutra could not stop that one. And that was a brave move there for Max Moron, particularly when you consider those front tyres, they will be feeling very hot. Those front brakes, yes, they're carbon ceramics on these cars, but they will still glow red hot. That's why you can see those brake discs really glowing there. And as they make the way around right now, Dutra takes a bit too much curve, and that's going to give him a slowdown there. Oggies, and he's going to try and fight it into Williams, but he's fighting against the tide. And at this point, he is going to have to give some time back. He doesn't want to. You don't want to do it as a driver, but he will need to. If he doesn't serve the slowdown for those curious, he will see that upgraded into what will be a drive-through penalty as a minimum. Sometimes it can be as severe as a stop and hold penalty in the pit lane. So Moron is going to take that place of a Dutra and take it clear. But as they make the way around, right now Finley Secker still leading. We've got 1 more lap to go. The pace of this race, by the way, we should point out, has been on average 1.5 seconds a lap slower compared to race number 1 because Fletcher's been caught with Finley Secker for so long. But that shows you how hard they are fighting. They are losing the second half a lap on the previous race, albeit they will still do 10 laps. Now we have got some change of foot further back. There's Kieran Boylan up the inside of what is Fawcett, and also Richard Revins, who we've got a big fan for there, of H.J. Parkinson cheering him on. He's now past Anton Grabowski for 8th. But the fight you all want to see, it's at the front of the field. Harry Fletcher versus Finley Secker, and Fletcher looks around the outside this time. This is the final lap here at Snetterton today. There's no going back from this one. And as Secker meanwhile holds that inside, Fletcher comes across, but Secker's still there. Secker swaps to the outside, and as they make the way through, the whole game plan here is essentially now to try and go for the switch back out the corner. The blimp shows you the 2 different lines. Then we come back to the close down camera, and as we do, we'll Ben Sieber 1.5 seconds behind. He's too far back to get involved unless they really start to essentially block each other. I think Sieber right now has just got to watch at a distance here and hope, of course, we don't want to see it happen, but he's got to hope they come into a bit of an altercation that's going to cause them to unstuck, but we come unstuck, but we will see what's to be. As Secker looking up the inside, but Fletcher still keeping his line together. You can see now Secker is getting just that little bit more dicey under brake, and he's thinking to himself, if I'm going to to do this? I'm going to need to lunge it. That's the only way I might be able to get back through. And that's not because he's desperate, but because he's thinking the fact that right now Fletcher is literally going to make this as hard as possible. And he knows Fletcher is the slightly quicker driver when he's in the clear air. As they come out to Oggies right now, we need a good exit out of Williams. If we see second get a good exit here, as that's Fletcher. Oh, goodness me, that made my heart skip a beat, ladies and gents, but surely not for Harry Fletcher. When the car blinks in and out on screen, that means he's got a bit of an unstable connection, and hopefully we don't see that car blink out entirely, because if it does, then we will lose him from the race. We don't want that. And, well, Fletcher right now goes defensive brief to break the toe, but in the end, he doesn't need to. 50 seconds too far back to make a move here. Into the braking zone they go, from left into right. Broderick to Nelson, rolling out the corner, and right now, this is absolutely on the limit for Harry Fletcher. 52nd is keeping eyes every step of the way. He has literally pushed him the distance. And indeed, 52nd showing he may not be the quickest driver out there. When it comes to defense, he is very hard to break down. Whereas Harry Fletcher, meanwhile, once he's ahead, he does have the opportunity to break away. And as they make the way into this final corner, coming through Murray's, which the run down the Ayrton Senna straight to the finish line. It's a better exit for Seca. It's a long run. It's the best part of what is 3/4 of a mile. But as they head to line, Harry Fletcher does it. He does the double today ahead of Finley Seca. He takes the win. Ben Seamer comes up in third, and it's 6 seconds back to Max Baron, who will finish in fourth place ahead of Gabriel Ducha. From 12th to 4th he goes. And Ducha taking 5th ahead of Mark Martin and James Rogers there to complete your top 7. Then it will be a phenomenal recovery drive here as he makes his way to line. This is from 15th to 8th for Richard Revins ahead of Anton Gabrowski, who holds off Thomas Stevens to line. Jay Dennis takes 11th, and then it will be Kurt Fawcett there in 12th place, just ahead of Kira Boylan. They've changed places right at the end of this race. We didn't quite see what happened, and then we've got a bit of a gap before our next drivers come through, ladies and gentlemen. But to be fair, what a race it has been. And here is Connor Spruce making his way around, and as he does so, will run his way through the corners, and the number 27 driver has had ups and downs. He's definitely not had the race one he had, where everything was in a much happier place, but to be fair, his trip to the pit lane really scuppered him after that damage he picked up at the start, and well, now as he makes way down, he will be on home at 14th place. Then we've got Matthew Shade. It's not over yet in terms of fighting, ladies and gentlemen. Don't walk away from your TV just yet, because we've got more fight to come. Here's Matthew Shade versus Craig McCracken. Well, fighting and McCracken, I think, are two slowest terms here, because right now, if I look at my dictionary tomorrow, I suspect I'm going to see a new term, which is Craig McCracken who dives on the inside. That's bold. And well, Matthew Shea didn't see that coming until the last moment, but he did see it coming. And Craig McCracken there, well, I think they might have a conversation after this one about the logistics of sending it, but Craig McCracken does send it. He takes 15th place there for Matthew Shea at the last corner. That'll be Kelvin Woodhead who brings it home 17th place, and then we will see Richie Hold ahead towards the line. A tough race for the 49 driver, but he will finish on that lead lap. And well, Richie Holder enjoyed himself out there. We did sadly lose Lee Robinson and Bevis Lau along the way, but Richie Holder enjoyed himself today, as did Kelvin Woodhead. And well, both of them didn't quite get the chance to shine in the second race, but they absolutely did in race number 1. And they will surely in more races to come. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring you those race results, subject to any insurance inquiries. And here they are for your feature race, the second of your 2 races from round number 1 of the 2026 edition of the Motorsport UK Esports Rookie Sportscar Cup, brought to you on iRacing, powered by the Sim Racing Collective, and of course supported by the official prize partners of Phil and also Simagic. And in the end, Harry Fletcher, over 20 minutes of absolutely dogged and determined battling between himself and Finley Seca and Ben Seamer getting into the mix, he did take the win for EFR with Rotor Racing by a grand total of 2 attempts at line ahead of the Drive Lounge Racing driver of Finley Seca, who in the end was able to convert was a pole position into that second place after finishing 8th in the first race. Ben Seamer took 3rd place there for DCW Racing. A very consistent set of results for Ben here today. That is 2 third places back-to-back, if my memory serves me correctly. Not quite matching the double wins of Harry Fletcher, but Ben Seamer is going to be a driver to watch out for as this season goes on. Simit Esports team, none other than Max Baron. He took 4th place in the end, just ahead of Gabriel Ducha, who slowed down right at the end, costed the chance at another fight for the first spot off the podium. But the Brazilian did very well. He needs to be proud of himself for that one, because that's the 5th place added to his 5th place from earlier on today. He has been highly consistent. Mark Martin took 6th, and it could have been perhaps a bit higher for the Hungarian driver. It weren't for a couple of bruising moments, but still, it's the way it went. And then we did see James Rogers there in 7th place, the Canadian ahead of Richard Revins there for Rev Racing, completed the top 8. And good to see Richard up there inside that top 10. He deserved that result, given how wrong it went in race number 1. Anton Gabrowski took 9th place in the end, really got into the fight, but didn't quite work out. And then we did see Thomas Stephen fight his way from last to to 10th place. After the technical issues that stopped him from going green in race number 1, he went green in this one, and he made it into the top 10, just about ahead of Jaden Innes by 2 tenths of a line, and then Kurt Fawcett, Kieran Boylan, Connor Spruce, and Craig McCracken completed your top 15. Matthew Shea took 16th ahead of Kelvin Woodhead, and then we did see a final finish of the race of none other than Richie Holder, and then sadly we did lose early on the race. Both Lee Robinson and Bereslau both for retirements, but hopefully we'll see them back as of next week in absolute fighting fit form. But that concludes our races for today, ladies and gentlemen, but it doesn't quite conclude our broadcast, because coming up shortly we post race interviews with our top 3 from this final race of the day. So stick around, you'll definitely want to hear about this race, indeed all the races today from our top 3 drivers, and we'll be back very shortly for those interviews and indeed all the insights, particularly of course from Harry Fletcher, but also Finley Secker and Ben Sieber, all being well. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our first interviews of the season, and we kick off with none other than Harry Fletcher, who now joins me in the interview room. Harry, good evening to you. What a debut round for you this season. Back-to-back wins, pole position as well, but you were made to fight for it in particularly race number 2. You must be exhausted.
Oh, I'm buzzing actually after that one, mate. It was, race 1 I thought, oh, it's quite nice, and then race 2, proper work for it. But it's why you're here, that sort of racing.
Oh, 100%. Incredible racing. And from your perspective, of course, I mean, you definitely got your elbows out there throughout. But in qualifying, you're absolutely untouchable. A pole lap by what was 1.3 seconds. I mean, you must have been proud of that lap.
In truth, not, because in my practice sessions before, I did a 206.8. So I was a little bit gutted to not be in the 206s. But listen, winning's winning.
Oh, indeed. And, well, I do have to ask about the livery. Do you happen to be a bit of a West Ham fan?
Yeah, I'm home and away. Have been for a few seasons now, so it is very much part of my life.
Oh, fair play. Well, you definitely put on a absolutely striking performance, much like some of their front men in race number 1, running away to victory in the end. I mean, in such a situation, how do you maintain your consistency at such a technical circuit as Snetterton?
Consistency, I've never said is one of my strong points, but just honestly practice. It really does make a massive difference. Just practice, and even more practice. It is.
Well, practice definitely paying off, and race number 1 in able to bring home that comfortable win by 12 seconds. But of course, race number 2, that's where all the excitement happened. I mean, I bet you were expecting it to be a tough one.
Yeah, I was. I was expecting a bit more of a tough one for race 1 as well, because both times the cars next to me, so P1 and P7, both disappeared off the grid before the start. So it caught me off. And then, yeah, coming through the pack, I just knew to pick one off at a time again. And, well, up to P1, you always knew it was going to be a fight. He was quick, Findy. I think I saying his name right. I'm not too sure, but yeah, we always knew it was going to be a fight for him.
Well, a huge fight. I mean, it was back and forth non-stop. I mean, after you passed him the first time, was there a part you thinking, right, I've got to be clear of him now? And then when he suddenly died back on you, I mean, it was terrific.
Yeah, I was thinking, right, time to try and just drop him a bit, but the toe bit so much helps in these MX-5s, just having that bit of slipstream there. So I also gave him a bit of a dive back into Agostini, but a bit of a late run, so had to give that place back. And yeah, just then re-go again after that, just reset.
Well, in the end, it was back and forth all the way, but you finally found your way past with a bit of a daring move, shall we say, and that final lap, you just managed to gap. It must have been a bit of a sigh of relief seeing that checkered flag on lap 10.
It is pure bliss. Like, these are my first ever 2 major race wins, so I'm absolutely buzzing. Like, big thank you to some of my friends and my sort of race team, or I guess we could call ourselves. They've helped me out massively for this.
Oh, fantastic. Well, to be fair, I can tell you one thing. You've put on an absolutely brilliant display today, and we look forward to you being out there again, see if you can make it 4 wins in a row at our next venue. Of course, it's Rudskogen up next. How are you feeling for the Norwegian circuit?
I haven't driven it too much, but I drove it in TCR, and it looks very good fun. So I really can't wait for it. And, fight for the championship, ultimately. That's when I come through here. I was like, right, I want to go have a fight for it and go win it.
Oh, 100%. That's the attitude you've got to have. But, Harry, just before I do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out or a thank you to on today's broadcast?
Just my team. In all honesty, they've been so helpful. They have been so helpful. Could not do it without them.
All fair
and
play. So after you, go on.
No. I was about to say thank you to Motorsport UK for posting this. It's really nice. Like, very good championship. It seems to be. Right.
Oh, fair play. And, well, Harry, thank you for joining me in the interview and to be our first interview of the season. I'm sure we'll get to speak to you again in the near future. But until then, congratulations. Go celebrate those 2 wins, and we'll see you at Rudskogen.
See you later. Bye-bye.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Harry Fletcher. And I do apologise for interrupting him there. Of course, we've got to get used to the idiosyncrasies of all of our drivers. And, well, absolutely pleased with his performances. 3 wins in terms of qualifying and the 2 races itself. Of course, taking that pole position, nowhere near satisfactory as perhaps he would have liked it to be, given the fact he knew there was more lap time out there. And admittedly, was a little bit surprised to be able to break away as comfortably as he did in race number 1. Although, to be fair, we are going to come to one of the drivers who was fighting behind him shortly, and they'll be able to tell us a little bit more about that and exactly what happened. But, of course, in race number 2, he got his fill of fighting with Finley Secker. The 2 of them back and forth with Ben C, but always keeping a watchful eye. And what a battle it was between those drivers. But he's made it the double. He's off to Rudskogen. Looking forward to the circuit, which he associates more with TCR, particularly a circuit that has been raced in Norwegian TCR in the past. And will he be able to keep it on the ground and make sure he turns it around for 2 wins there? We'll have to wait and see. Well, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to what would be our second interviewee. And as we get set to speak to them, well, we are going to be bringing in none other than what will be Finley Secker, who gets ready to join me in the interview room. And, well, let's just bring him in, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, as my voice does start to give way a little bit there. The race has been that good. But in the interview room now comes none other than Finley Secker. And, well, as he joins me, Finley, good evening to you. What a day you've had. Qualifying, not a great day. But race 1, fought your way through the field. Race number 2, almost taking the win. How do you feel?
Oh my goodness, it's been a stressful day, you know. Qualifying, I was unable to put a lap in. I dipped a tire in the grass too many times, and none of my laps counted. So I started P19. So yeah, first race. I dodged a few cars on the start. It's facing the wrong way a couple of times, but in the end, I got 8th, which was good enough for pole at the start of race 2. So I was very happy about that. And then race 2 is probably the best race I've ever had. Me and Harry was just chatting earlier as well with Ben and Connor, and yeah, we fought so hard. Honestly, I thought we were going to be in the barrier a couple of times because, yeah, that was a stressful one. But no, I am very happy with second. Yeah, pretty good.
Oh, well, you definitely sound exhausted by it, to be fair. I won't keep you too long. Of course, qualifying those laps counting. So, race 1, we saw you fight your way up through the field. I mean, you did a great job of fighting your way through, although I get the feeling that part of you was a bit gutted. Was there a bit of a contact midway through that actually set you back a few places?
Yeah, there was a couple incidents, I think. One time I was a bit heavy-footed on the brakes and spun round, so I lost a couple of positions there. And I'm not sure what the other one was, but I do remember it. You're going to have to tell me because I've completely forgotten.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Finley. We'll both have to figure out if somebody out there can help us out, because there's been so much battling, from yourself included, that I've slightly forgotten the order of proceedings with that one. But still, you turned things around and got to 8th place at the end of race 1. I mean, that must have been a hugely rewarding end to the race to think, I'm on pole for race 2.
Yeah, I was like a couple laps before, I was like 10th, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to push really hard to get this 8th and start high up in race 2. And then, would you know, a couple corners later, 2 cars facing the wrong way. I'm like, well, lucky me. So yeah, I finished 8th. I was just hoping that no one else spun around, so I started further back. Yeah, a couple of incidents, race 1, finished 8th, so I was very happy. And then started race 2. I knew my launch, I felt, was pretty good, so able to pull away lap 1 a little bit and just put some distance and try and put some laps in race 2. That was the plan, but yeah, Harry caught me up with Ben, and yeah, fought a bit hard, and we lost some time that I shouldn't have lost.
Well, the two of you may have lost quite a bit of time, but in the end, you gave us a heart attack in the commentary booth time and time again with a fight. I mean, every time we got ahead of you, you weren't giving up. You threw yourself back in there. I mean, I've seen you race a little bit in the past, but this has got to be some of the finest defensive driving you've done so far in your history. I mean, where does it come from?
Honestly, I've got no idea. Me and Harry, honestly, he was defending like everything, you know. I think, what's the saying, work smart, not hard. So going into corners, he would slow down and then try and come a switchback. But I knew after a couple laps that he's done it, I knew that he was going to do it. So I'd open the corner up a little bit for myself and absolutely send it through. And he was unable to send the switchback a couple of times. But no, that was a pretty good race, and I've got no idea where this defensive driving's come from. I guess I really wanted to get a good result at hometown Snetterton. So yeah.
Well, a great result for yourself. A podium after the 8th place and a recovery drive to boot within the space. Next up, Ridskogen in a week's time. How are you feeling for the trip to Norway?
I have no idea which way the track even goes. I think it's going to be it's going to be horrible. Honestly, it's the one I'm least looking forward to. because it's such a long first corner, I believe, and quite a tight technical track, unlike Snetterton, where quite long corners and only a couple heavy braking zones for us getting, however you pronounce it. Looks like a quite tight and twisty technical track. So yeah, hopefully I don't crash and get some more results, bank some good points. So yeah, looking forward to get my head down and get some practice in.
Oh, indeed. So practice will definitely help, and we look forward to seeing you take on the circuit in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
Yeah, as always, as I did previous rounds, big thank you to Driveland Racing. They were the ones that showed me this championship and I was eligible to enter it. And they've been great with Noah Bolton, Zach Sweeney, and Kieran Harding, all being able to give me massive pointers for this track and show me where to go all the time, which paid off because I got second. And also big thanks to family for watching and just believing is pretty good. It's good to feel quick. And also Connor Spruce. We've been sharing a bit of data, friends in real life. Just being able to share the data and compare lap times and help bounce off each other. So yeah.
Oh, well, Connor will definitely appreciate the shout out, and Finney, we really appreciate you joining us in the interview. Congratulations today. Not the perfect way to start the season with that qualifying performance, but definitely a perfect way to show your talent in both races with that podium in race 2 almost a win. We'll see you at Ridskogan to see whether you can be right up there once again. But until then, have a lovely rest of your evening.
You too. Hopefully I'll see you later in a bit.
So hearing there from a quite exhausted Finley Secker, he does sound knackered, to be fair, ladies and gentlemen. And well, he's right to be exhausted after taking that difficult qualifying session and casting it into the air and saying, right, I'm going to fight my way forward and bring home that 8th place in race number 1, and still plenty of fighting as he did in the end make his way into what was that 2nd place spot. But understandably, he wanted that win, went all in for it, but in the end, Harry Fletcher was just a little bit too much to handle right at the very end of the race. And well, Finley Secker definitely put on his best defensive performance, but he'll need to dig a bit deeper for Ridskogan as he doesn't know which way the circuit goes. He needs to get the practice out, but I'm sure practice will make perfect for him, and we look forward to seeing what the Driveland Racing track can do in a week's time. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple more interviews to go. In fact, we have now got another 2 interviews to come. We've had an update to say that we've got an extra driver as well, but next up, we're coming to the man in yellow for DZW Racing, because it's none other than Ben Sieber, who is about to join me in the interview room. And let's hear from the driver who today is all about finishing 3rd place in every part of the day. And well, here he comes into the interview room now, ladies and gentlemen, and let's see what Ben's got to say. And well, good evening to Ben Sieber as he joins me now. Ben, if we had to give you a nickname today, it would be Mr. 3rd place. 3rd in qualifying, 3rd in race 1, 3rd in race 2. Must be a happy day for you, though.
Yeah, not a bad day. Consistent, you can say that.
Now, a consistent day. Let's talk a little bit about the results in particular. Qualifying, 3rd place out there, just missing out on that front row to the Scotsman of none other than Thomas Stephen, but I think it was a 10th if that. Was there a bit more time out there?
Yes, I had off tracks in my first 2 laps. So the dread and panic set in, and I took things just a touch easier. Not sure I had the pace for pole, but probably the pace for a front row start. But yeah, with I think P2 had some issues, so I kind of ended up there anyway, which was all right.
And now, of course, coming on to race number 1 itself, we did see you right in the thick of the fighting throughout the race. In the end, yourself and Connor Spruce, I think you've been speaking to in the cool-down room. The 2 of you had an absolutely brilliant battle. I mean, it looked like it was never going to end.
Yeah, it was good fun. I think anytime one of us thought we might be able to sneak a little bit of a gap, they made a mistake, and then I saw him struggling a bit through into the last corner and thought I'll have a bit of a cutback, and took a little bit too much curb. Thought I had him anyway, and then I was looking at that number, waiting for it to change, and it never did. But it was a really good race. So yeah, hats off to Connor for that one.
Oh, a fantastic race, and Connor may have got the upper hand, but then we went into race number 2, and of course, this time you'd be starting 6th place. A little bit of drama at the start, not necessarily for yourself, but you very quickly found yourself up into 3rd place.
Yeah, I got a decent start. Had a little bit of an ambitious move into the first hairpin. Fortunately, everyone gave everyone room and managed to sneak up, I think, into 4th. And then I got a little bit of a tap coming through the chicane, but I think I got 2 taps, so I ended up facing the right direction. And then, yeah, settled in behind Harry and Finn, who put on a great show for me, to be honest. I was waiting for them to make a mistake with each other, but they never did.
Now, I've got to ask for the viewers at home and for my own personal curiosity, how big was the bucket of popcorn you had in the car watching that battle in front? I presume it was an extra large, and if so, why didn't you share it with the rest of the grid?
It was an extra large salted popcorn. It was very nice. Yeah, as I say, waiting for them to make a little mistake. A couple of times I had to talk myself out of sticking my nose in because I didn't want to spoil the show. And unfortunately, or fortunately for them, they managed to keep it clean and ended up P3 again. But I'll take it.
Or indeed, a highly consistent start to your season, and well, that consistency could be very rewarding next time we meet, because it will be Rudskogen that's up next. How are you feeling for the Norwegian circuit?
I've done it once. It's quite exciting. Good fun track to drive. I think the downhill section on lap 1 could be interesting, but survive that, and it's a good track. There's lots of time to be gained. Especially in these Mazdas, if you get a slow exit, I think if you saw it at Snetterton today, if you get a slow exit, you can things can soon bunch up again. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Oh, fantastic. And we're looking forward to seeing you out there, see if you can chase even more podiums or even make it onto, say, the second or the top step of said podium.
Oh, you never know.
Oh, very true. But one thing you definitely know is anyone who you'd like to give it a shout out or a mention with regards to the broadcast tonight.
Well, seeing as it was my twin brother's birthday and my birthday on Saturday, I'll have to say a little happy birthday to my brother Tom.
Oh, fantastic. Well, happy birthday to both you and your brother Tom. I mean, I never knew you had a twin, but we've learned something new today here in the content booth. And, well, congratulations to you, Ben, on your performances, keeping the DCW racing spirit alive in that number 26. We'll see you at Rudskogen, but until then, have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you, Paul. See you later.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from a very happy Ben Sieber, and well, happy birthday to him and his twin brother Tom. And today, well, qualifying, interesting, they're talking about the fact he had more pace out there. He would have been on the front row, he reckons. He wouldn't have been able to match Harry Fletcher, but in the end, he scared himself out of his pace because he'd been validating his laps. And it happens as a driver. You push too hard, you get those off tracks, and then suddenly towards the end of the qualifying session, your thought process is, oh, goodness me, I'm never going to get a lap together, so I need to turn the wick down. And, well, Ben turned the wick down, only to find the wick needed to be turned up to maximum to battle with Connor Spruce in race number 1. Connor in the end getting the upper hand, but the two of them absolutely enjoying the race out there. And in race number 2, he spent the majority of the race watching Finley Secker and Harry Fletcher fighting for the win. And he mentioned he wanted to put his nose in a couple of times, but thought better of it because he didn't want to spoil the fight and was perhaps hoping for an opportunity to take both places. But it wasn't to be. 2 third places then, highly consistent from Ben Sieber, and we're looking forward to Rudskogen and what can be there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll look forward to seeing him out there, but we've got one more interview to come this evening. And, well, getting ready to join me now in the interview room for the final interview of round number 1. It's going to be none other than Connor Spruce, as we do look to him out on circuit. And give us a brief moment, we will be bringing him on in. And as we do, let's hear what he's got to say about what has been a very mixed day as he now joins me in the interview room. And as we welcome Connor Spruce in as our 4th and final interview of today, Connor, good evening to you. Something tells me today is going to feel a bit bittersweet because a very impressive qualifying performance, a phenomenal battle for second that went your way, holding off Ben Sieber, and in race number 2, it all went wrong very on.
Yeah, unfortunately it did. Race 1, absolutely stellar. Ben did great job, made me fight for every inch of that P2, came down to that drag race to the line. I think it was 8 thousandths of a second or something like that when we finally crossed, which I was shaking the entire way down that start finish. And then, yeah, race 2, gridded up, went to get ready for the launch and just simply held the wrong button down. So it threw me in the pits rather than launch control, which was a silly mistake. But unfortunately, that's how it goes sometimes, and just got to learn, make sure not to press the wrong button, more importantly. But yeah, no, I'm happy with race 1. Race 2 obviously didn't have the start, but clawed some positions back towards the end, so I can't be too unhappy with it, making my way back through, getting a better finish than just dead last. So not too unhappy overall, just lessons to take into next week more than anything, really.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we all make mistakes, rookie or even veterans out there. They all sometimes push the wrong buttons. But one thing that definitely was quite impressive, you're qualifying that for 4th, right in a very tight top 7 pack from 2nd through to 7th. Were you happy with where you qualified?
I was. Once I finished the session, saw that it was saying P3, and I was getting a little bit antsy towards the end as the seconds were ticking down on the clock for the quali session. And I thought I might have had P3, and then popped up P4, and I was obviously can't be too upset dropping just 1 place when there was a few guys that didn't even manage to get their laps in, unfortunately for them. So that's not too bad for me. My second quali lap was going to be better. Unfortunately, I just scuffed the final corner up coming out of it, so I just lost all the time that I was making up on myself. So yeah, overall, I can't be too upset with the quali position.
Well, didn't have to be too upset about it, because we saw you in the end fighting for perhaps the vision you really wanted in race number 1. And you're talking about the battle between yourself and Ben. And in the end, you may have only taken it by what was a grand total of, I do believe, none other than 8 thousandths at the finish line. But flip side of the coin, of course, being we did get to see you really lead the way in that defensive fight. You looked comfortable being the leader in it.
I definitely think I was. Maybe not as comfortable as maybe Ben had been trying to defend against me, just because he was putting a lot of pressure on a lot of the time, and I was just having to make sure that I didn't make any mistakes for him to capitalize on. I did make a few. He got back in front occasionally, but we just sort of swapped. And like I say, he did an amazing job making me fight for it. I like to think I did an amazing job making him fight as well. It was just all around really good race for us two. Harry stormed away with it fairly early on, so congrats to him. He dropped us, so it was just sort of up to us two to make the best of that situation, and definitely think we did. It was a really good battle. I'm glad we managed to keep it clean. I think that would have been a far more bittersweet ending to the race if one of us had ended up with a collision or something like that and had turned the other around. But I'm really glad that it managed to go quite literally to the line. And yeah, all in all, great race from Ben, great race from Harry. Can't fault either of them, really.
Oh, indeed. And we can't really fault yourself either for that one. Of course, you mentioned what happened in race number 2 and making up some places towards the end. So instead of talking about race number 2, a bit of a hurting point, understandably, let's look ahead now to round number 2. Ridskogen's up next. How are you feeling for the trip to Norway?
A little bit nervous. It's not my strongest track. I have only raced it the once in an official event, so I haven't got the most amount of practice around there. Hopefully I can use this week to really clamp down, find some time and everything like that, and get a little bit more familiar with it. Other than that, I haven't really got a lot to say for round 2 because I haven't done a lot of it. So this week is really going to be the sort of just really driving home, getting everything sorted out for it. But hopefully when it comes into it, I'll manage to put in a decent time and hopefully be up there with the boys again towards the front.
Well, we'd definitely love to see you back up towards the front corner, and we do wish you all the best with the time you do have to prepare for round 2. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
Big shout out to Zach Sweeney. He's been a massive help for this week. He's an absolute gem of a coach. Can't fault him at all. Big shout out to Drive Lounge for giving me the day off as well to be able to do it. That was stellar as well. Really thankful for that. Just really thankful to be able to get a chance to actually compete and find out what I've got and just see where it goes.
Ah, well, indeed, a big shout out to Zach. Very talented individual as a coach and also commentator, no doubt about it. And Connor, you've been an absolute star today. And the result may not have gotten your way in race 2, but your race 1, very impressive. We hope to see even more from you at Redskogen. But until then, have a lovely evening, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from our final interview of today, none other than Connor Spruce, the privateer who had things not quite go all the way he wanted them to. And talking out there the fact that in qualifying, happy with that, although he was a little bit surprised by being pipped to pole, not pipped to pole position, but being pipped to the front of the second row by none other than Ben Sieber right at the end, thinking he got that third. Only then to fight his way with Ben Sieber all the way to that second place in race 1. Although admitting there, the game really was to try and see if they could stay with Harry Fletcher. And when they fought as hard as they did, we saw the leader break away. And again, that's the big part of Harry Fletcher being able to run away in race 1. Yes, he had the pace, but the fight for second became the priority. Race number 2, talking out there the fact that he should have held his launch control button when he actually held his button, which saw the car towed to the pit lane. There's a button you hold in iRacing. It can be mapped to your steering wheel or to your keyboard by the side of you, depending on your setup, and when he pressed the wrong button, put himself in the pit lane and started from the pit lane, but did well to recover to 14th place. Just wasn't the way the 27 driver wanted it be today. But understandably, Redskogen lies ahead. He'll need to get some practice in when he can, and we'll see him out there once again, and I'm certain he'll be back in that top 5 and not on that podium as quickly as you can say his name, and that is Connor Spruce. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews of this season opening round, and without further ado, let's give you a recap of who we spoke to in our Rookie Sportscar Cup Championship. And as we can see, we spoke to our 4 drivers here today. Harry Fletcher, your winner and pole sitter. Double winner there, taking all the victories, took all the points. But to be fair, not too far behind him in race number 2 was Finley Secker for Drive Lounge Racing, who enjoyed himself out there and converted what was a dismal qualifying performance into a much prouder pair of races, including that near win in race 2. Then we spoke to Ben Sieber for DCW Racing. He had a blast there, missed the 3rd place stay, but he wants to go a bit higher on that podium if he can. And Connor Spruce, his dance partner for qualifying and race number 1. And a difficult start to race number 2, causing him to be unstuck, and we did see that damage midway through race number 2 as well, just as we cut away to the screen, which really upset his opportunities to come back into the top 10. But a big thank you to all 4 of our drivers for joining me for interviews for the season opener. We'll definitely get plenty more interviews as the season goes on, and it won't just be always relegated to what will be, or confined, we should say, to our top 3 finishers in a given race. We'll always be open to interviews for any driver, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned in the weeks to come. You'll be hearing from plenty of other drivers, we can assure you of that. But of course, it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up, ladies and gentlemen. The show must stop at some point, at least this season opener, but we promise you there will be more to come. And well, to talk a little bit about what's to come next, well, up next, Redskogen Motor Centre, the premier South Norwegian circuit, and indeed the number 1 place for all road car racing in Norway as designed by Herman Tilke. The date, Monday the 6th of July, 7 o'clock in the evening. Be back there to see how all the racing continues in both our support series of the Sim Racing Collective Hot Hatch Trophy, and also what is, of course, the 2026 Championship edition of none other than the Motorsport UK Esports Rookie Sportscar Cup. A big shout out to the Sim Racing the Sim Racing Collective for powering our championship this season, and also a big shout out, of course, to our prize partners of none other than Simagic and also Phil. And just to give you a reminder about them, of course, well, Phil, established in 2017 by the founder of the world famous Team Redline and former head of studio at Studio 397, Dom Duhan. They are a pioneer of gloves specifically designed for sim racing, setting the standard for performance-focused racing gear designed specifically for sim racing. And if you want to keep performing at your best behind the wheel, make sure you check out Phil's range of sim racing gloves on their website at www.f33L.gg. And also big shout out to Simagic, the company founded in 2018 on the basis of the question, how can we bring the thrill of real racing into everyone's home? And Simagic's product range has rapidly evolved into a full racing ecosystem. Well, if you want to keep chasing poles, podiums, or personal bests, why not check out Simagic's range of products at simagic.com. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. We have been Motorsport UK Esports. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And until next time, make sure you subscribe so that way you stay up to date with all the latest racing action in this championship. You won't want to miss a bit at Redskogen. But until then, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, like our drivers, remember to stay on track. Good night.
them as well. What a move from the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.